Oh, I didn't even know there was a box.
I'm so tempted.
You're fired. I bet I can get 3 votes.
Wait, you?
Yeah.
You unconscious needs 3 votes.
I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of Tuesday, May 2nd. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could please have a moment to remember Iva Whitaker, who passed away last week. And I would also like to request that everybody keep Irene Strobel in their prayers. Please be seated. Roll call, Denise.
Councilmember Cassidy.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson.
Here.
And Mayor Marshall.
Here. There are no presentations. Are there any announcements or written communications? Ms. Brady?
No, I'm sorry.
When I ask that, who am I asking?
I guess anyone.
Anybody?
The
Anybody?
collective we.
Am I in the collective we?
No, you get to make
Do
a
that all by
report,
myself.
yes.
Okay. All righty. Seeing there are none, city manager report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Good evening. I just have a few items to update you on. The Southern California Association of Governments is announcing the effective May 1st to Go Human, the advertising campaign starting, as I mentioned, May 1, to encourage drivers to drive slowly, is the adverb, down or to slow down or to drive slowly and look for people walking and biking. The launch coincides with National Bike Month to promote traffic safety and encourage people to walk and bike more. And of course, this would be very appropriate for our community as well. Secondly, I'm pleased to report that of a good meeting today with Catalina Broadband owners, the owners and officers of the company, and our IT consultant, Pat Grady, on ways to improve broadband service in Avalon and the many aspects that has to it, and we'll follow up with more information. There's lots of opportunities for improvement of service. We did have Mr. Mesher and I, the finance director, had a very good conversation with Catalina Island Medical Center and U.S. Bank officers to discuss ways and means to financially assist our fine medical facility. I wanted to mention as well that based on your previous direction, the 3 letters have been sent out to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation in support of Southern California Edison's grant applications to improve Avalon and Island freshwater systems. I wanted to mention also that I was contacted by the Federal Emergency Management Agency this last week about the impacts on storm on our city. I told them the importance of taking preventative actions on Pebbly Beach Road and the cliffs, and we're going to bring their engineering team over to see if there's federal money through FEMA to Federal Emergency Management Agency to help us in regard to those safety improvements. And lastly, that I did have a conversation with Chuck Posner, communication with him from the California Coastal Commission, and he's agreed that we will be meeting shortly to talk about the local coastal plan update, our mole project our retrofit and reconstruction, the Pebbly Beach Road, and support for applications that will be made by Southern California Edison to upgrade the desal system in Avalon. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you very much. City Attorney?
2 things. The next 3 days, I'll be attending the SCAG conference, Southern California Association of Governments, and one of my goals there is to meet with our Long Beach rep, who's not been to Avalon, and he's the guy that funnels funds and funding from SCAG to the area, and he's never been here, so Ole and I are going to try and convince him to come out here and visit the island to look at our transportation needs and help us. The second thing is this Friday, there will be a court hearing on those dogs that were involved in the incident. We have them off the island, and we are asking the court to order the destruction of the dogs. So.
And does anybody go there?
We're having code enforcement attend that.
I will be in the audience as well, Madam Mayor.
Excellent.
So it's like a trial.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Is it one of those things, if the owners don't show up, they're automatically put down?
No.
Oh.
The judge has to look at the evidence and determine. We don't know if the owners will show up or not.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay. Council member reports. Who would like to start?
I'll start tonight. I have two things. I had a compliment on the rec department for a lot of the ways that a lot of the services are moving forward in the community, and also how the parks are looking, and how there's a lot of activities, a lot more than there's ever been. So, but I also know that all of our departments are hitting home runs, and we're short-staffed, but we're getting a lot done. More than ever, and I really appreciate our staff and the job they do. I really do think that we hold them to a high level of accountability, and they're doing a really good job. The next thing I'm concerned about, I would direct my comment towards the city attorney, which is the Sacramento, state of California, Kevin De Leon and Jerry Brown continue to talk about seceding from the union, which very much concerns me. It concerns a lot of the people who fought for our country. I have like 6 generations of people who have fought for our country, including my grandfather, who saved 26 men off the Oklahoma a couple days after Pearl Harbor was bombed. My dad, who almost died in Korea. My Uncle Rich, who almost died in Vietnam. And about a couple dozen other family members that fought for that red, white, and blue flag right there. They can't imagine flying another flag above that one. So I'm asking you, what does this physically, if these guys, I want to call them jokers, characters, I don't know what they're trying to do to secede from the Union of the United States. That's
From the state of California, not from the U.S. Still be part of the U.S.
This California wants to secede from California?
Part of California wants to secede from California.
Whatever they want to do, it's ridiculous, and I don't like the whole idea of it. And I'd like to know what it means to us physically, financially, exactly how serious are they about it, and do we have to make any preparations to or write any letters in order to? Can you just tell us anything about it, or do some research to see exactly what it means to the city of Avalon? That's what I'd like to know.
If the council directs, we can look into that. I will tell you that it's seen as largely a symbolic gesture and not a real gesture. Mm-hmm. So we don't believe that it actually has a possibility of passing, or even if there's an initiative out there right now that is being circulated to go to the voters. So even if either legislation or the initiative passed, we don't believe that it would be legal, and it's mostly a symbolic thing. But if you want to, we can look into the ramifications if it were actually to succeed.
I think it'd be wise to figure out and see if it's going to affect us or not, since we do rely on the state of California probably for some of our funding, correct?
Yes.
So that's the basis of that question. It's just I wanted to throw my comment out there because I've had some people let me know that they're very disappointed in that whole idea, and is it constitutionally correct as well to our Constitution and its amendments? So anyway, that's it.
Council member, if I may, as I recall my history, that we fought a civil war in 1860 over the issue of secession. And we also in 1828 and again in 1860, and there were times before where this whole concept of nullification came up. President Jackson at the time, President Lincoln later. My understanding as a political science student
Yes, sir.
is that cannot be done without the consent of the Congress. But as I think the city attorney said, that there are certainly symbolically things that people do for the reasons that they do them.
Okay. On behalf of my constituency, I laid that out on the table, and that's all of my announcements. Thank you.
Councilman Hernandez?
I just have a couple of things. Just want to just speak on the water usage still. Want to make sure everybody still keeps in mind that we still want to get back to where we were. I see a lot of people washing their cars and wasting a little bit of water. There's certain times we could water, and I'd like to see people keep that in their mind when they're out there doing these things, because we can get back to where we were real quick. One other thing we had was the signage. I got a complaint on the signage down on Metropole Street where it says parking for autoettes. We can forget the people on the mainland don't know what autoettes are, a lot of them. So I don't know if you want to put golf cart on there maybe, because I got asked that today, what's the difference. So maybe, and I know it's just a change we could put on our signage down there, maybe a golf cart only instead of autoettes. Other than that,
No, that's a good, I had that too.
that would be it.
Great. Dan, are you going to talk about all the weekend activities? Okay. Okay, then I won't. But monthly announcement that I'll be attending the Gateway City Council of Government meeting tomorrow night, unless I can talk the mayor into taking my seat for me for this month's meeting. But if not, then I'll just put it out there that I'll be attending that. And just a reminder that others will share specifics, but this weekend there's lots of events happening on the island. It's going to be a very busy weekend, and it's going to be quite a bit younger crowd, probably mostly millennials visiting this weekend. So just to all of us that, visitors are our lifeline over here, and they're very important to us, and to just take a deep breath. We do have some of the older guys visiting as well, but take a deep breath. It's going to be a weekend. We'll get back to normal on Monday, but this is a really important weekend, and this influx of visitation over the springtime is really important. So that's all I have.
Thank you. First off, Public Works did a great job on getting the sand spread on the beaches. I mean, it looks really good down there. It's kind of fun to have sand on the beaches and see people on the beaches. I'm wondering I know we didn't sound test last year or this year when we renewed the Autoet permits, and the argument was we were going to go out and cite people for driving noisy vehicles, and there's a lot of noisy vehicles that we're not citing, and I'm just wondering if we could step that up a little bit, because there's a lot of noisy golf carts, and also a scooter or two. And with Mr. Campbell, I will go into SCAG, and I'll keep him out of trouble. I'll try my best to keep him out of trouble. That's difficult. And then next week we're going to Palm Desert to go to Contract City's annual meeting, which is a 3-day seminar of a lot of good fun stuff. So we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Okay. I got correspondence from Gateway Cities, the SCAG Policy Committee. There's a vacancy on the Community Economic and Human Development Committee, and they meet once a month, and their role of that committee is to study problems, programs, and other matters which pertain to the regional issues of community, economic, and human development and growth. This committee reviews projects, plans, and programs of regional significance for consistency and conformity with applicable regional plans. And the committee has oversight of the growth visioning and growth forecasting processes, as well as the regional housing needs assessment, the intergovernmental review effort, and the monitoring and analysis of the regional economy. I'm putting this out there. I don't know if anybody is interested. If this is of importance, I would put my name in the hat if this is a committee that you think we should be involved in, or if anybody else. They also give you a little stipend for attending. I'm not so concerned about the stipend, but they do that. Doesn't say how much. But I don't know. Is this something you feel, those of you?
I think anytime we can get involved, keep Avalon in front of the other people on the mainland, it's good for us, because they forget about us.
Is anybody interested? I mean, I'll put my name in the hat.
How often is it?
It's
Once a month should be.
once a month. It's on a Thursday, Thursday of each month at 10 a.m.
Yeah, I can do it.
That's tough on you. I know it is.
Go for it, Annie.
Okay, well, if you wouldn't mind, I'll leave that there.
It's due Thursday.
And it's due Thursday.
I'll
yes.
consider it, but I'm really busy right now.
I know, yes.
It's hard to commit to that. Okay. Well, if we can talk about it, like what we can possibly benefit out of it, consider going. Okay.
Okay, or you can be my alternate if I go.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we can
sounds
work it
good.
that way?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe we'll do
Okay.
that.
I met with Mike Smith, our FOG representative, the other day. It was kind of fortuitous. And he was telling me that whole process about how they come and evaluate all the businesses and how they do that and the reports that are filed. And there are some delinquent people and some that have been delinquent for over a year. And hopefully staff will be working on what we want to do about those folks that are not in compliance. I don't know when and how and who gets the reports. to the-
We have been. We met with Mike Smith also, as well as Bob Greenlaw met us in that group that day, and we will be submitting our recommendations to the city manager and our thoughts on it and how to proceed forward and what kind of fines, because they're very hefty at this point.
Yes, I understand. Okay, perfect. Thank you. The
I'm sorry, Annie, can I just ask a question? Is that the program that we had already given a year's leniency?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
yes, fats, oils, and greases.
Yeah.
Also, there. Well, I'll talk about that later. The Safe Cities Proclamation. Where is that in the works? I know you had created one, and I have offered some feedback, and then.
It is ready to go, so we can put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
If you want, we can have it up as soon as possible so that the community can look at the proposed resolution.
Okay, that would be great.
So that is ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Is discussion of the electric panel going to be when we talk about Casino Dock Cafe, or is that something we were going to talk about now?
The Director of Public Works is looking at option on the electric panel, and what the cost might be to move the monolith from where it is to an appropriate place. It looks like a monolith, but
Yeah.
and I know he's working on some numbers that what those costs might be, and we'll bring those back to you when he has them. Is that fair, Bob?
Okay,
Beautiful.
thank you. Also, Community Services had the volunteer recognition program last Saturday, and Councilwoman Cassidy. Oh, you can't hear me? That's amazing. But thank you. Okay, thank you. But we went to the volunteer recognition program. That was lovely on Saturday. And we honored Rhonda Kalish, Leanne Newman-Stone, and Sophie Tarbuck. So we appreciate the efforts of Community Services and in keeping this program going in the future. So that was lovely. And that's all I have. Okay, oral communications. This is an opportunity for people of the community to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and no action will be taken.
Hi, John Council, 352 Catalina Street. I just want to make a public proclamation that probably most of you see me around in my fire turnouts or see me in my wetsuit or that in my marine animal rescue garb doing one of the three kind of things I get involved with all the time. For about 37 years, I've been collecting vintage diving equipment, and over that time frame, it's amassed itself into what's now recognized as one of the largest private vintage diving collections in the country, and it's relatively impressive. Some time ago, I decided to try to marry two of my passions, the Marine Animal Rescue Program, which is a 501c3, and we're always trying to get funding for it, and to display the diving equipment and use the diving equipment exhibit as a methodology to bring people in and to make them aware of the Marine Animal Rescue Program and try to get donations for it to help fund us, because we need funding for various things. So that's kind of what I've been working on. So the Island Company was tremendous. They were helpful. They provided me a space in the casino building, and for the last month I've been working on setting up the old conference room and getting it all set up with vintage diving equipment. And there are items in here that you cannot see anywhere else in the country. So I've got like Frank Sinatra's dive set of gear, and I've got old regulators and masks and all kinds of things that can't be seen anywhere else in the country. I make it a point to know where this kind of stuff is because I'm always on the lookout for it. And so I know where certain particular items are or aren't available. And so we've got things here now sitting in Avalon over at the casino building that the general public can come and see. And we're going to do a big fundraiser on Saturday, the 13th of May. And the whole public is welcome to attend. And hopefully a lot of people will come and see what we've got going on display and get fired up about marine animal rescue and take a look. We've got lots of magazines that are all excited about coming over and taking photographs because the whole dive history thing is quite big for them. And so the Historical Diving Society, which does a quarterly distribution to 22 different countries, is excited to come over and do a whole photographic spread and do a publication in their magazine and send it out to 22 countries, which will be free advertising for Avalon, as well as many of the other dive publications. So everybody's excited. I've been doing email blasts and all that kind of stuff, and so pretty fun stuff. Just real quickly, I know I just got a couple minutes, but when I showed Cap Perkins this mask, he knew exactly what it was, and he says that was a prototype mask from CNET Manufacturing out of Los Angeles, which was the first manufacturer of a full plate lens mask. Everything prior to that in the late 30s was goggles. And Cap said, we used to take an old radiator hose and cut it to fit our face with a pocket knife and then take a steam valve plate glass out of a gauge and put it in with a hose clamp. And I said, what'd you use for head strap? And he looked at me kind of like I was a dumb kid. He goes, inner tube. And so this is one of the first masks that was ever made in the country, and this will be on display for people to take a look at, and it's pretty unique. And this is a 1951, what's called a Seahorse regulator. It will be the only one that's on display for the public in the nation. So they're that rare. There was only a few hundred of them made back in the early 50s, and they only made them for a few years. This was an aircraft diluter regulator that the manufacturers took the diaphragm out and dipped it in liquid rubber to make it waterproof, and then they sold these as a marketable product for about 2-3 years. And so this is ultra rare. So it's fun to see. And then this is just kind of a fun piece. We've got lots and lots of fans, but these are from 1950, a Healthways version, and you don't see stuff like this all the time. These are just fun. In the early days of fin manufacture, kind of any design was worth trying, and this was one of them. So anyway, Mayor came out and took a look, a little preview, and I think she enjoyed it. So
very much so. Well, just look at how he can talk about those 3 pieces, and I don't know how many pieces of artifacts he has in there, but he knows the story of every piece that's in there. It's your incredible job as a curator of your own museum.
Thank
so
you.
I thank you, and we wish it all a success.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Oh, that's great. That's amazing.
Hi, Allison Osensky, 356 Sumner. Several things. First, again, status of negotiations with the Island Company to provide land for the Municipal Aquatic Center. Has anything been happening? We've wasted another year. Here it is, almost summer, no aquatic complex. We'd all like the Island Company to donate the land. We've asked them about it for 40 years now. 40 years. It doesn't look like they're going to do what they should, which is to donate the land, and really they should pay for the complex. But if they're not going to do it, I'm asking, has anybody done anything again to ask if they would sell us the land, or has anybody looked further into taking the land under eminent domain? Has anything happened at all with the aquatic complex?
Well, I would, if I may, I wouldn't certainly talk about the latter, which the E word. But I understand that I thought I understood that there was some conversation with the hospital that might be blending of some interests. We are having discussions that are very preliminary on housing issues. We've asked the company for what globally they are planning to do, what they need, so we can tell them what we need. And we've had some preliminary discussions, not about an aquatic center per se, but about preliminary on the housing issues and about facilities. We're talking about in the budget, putting in for a master plan for recreational facilities. That would certainly be something that should be considered as part of that plan. And once you have a plan in place, then you can move to implement that plan. And so that's the best I can tell you on it.
Okay. All right. Second item. When the new shuttle bus service was started last year, many of us were stuck with books of taxi tickets that couldn't be used for taxi rides, but we were then able to use them on the buses or on the shuttle. Well, now we have a similar situation that a lot of us are stuck with shoreboat tickets. We've got books of shoreboat tickets that the old company won't refund and the new company won't take. Is anybody looking into the possibility of letting us use those one way or they're either getting refunds or being able to use them on the new shore boats?
Never heard of it.
We never heard.
No, first we heard of this, so this is something for us to look into.
Okay, thank you. On a related topic, when the new shoreboat company took over, they don't have a permit to provide transportation to Moonstone, Whites, Button Shell, Hen Rock. The old company did, and the new so now there's no transportation to get to the moorings or to any of the yacht club camps. So could somebody please also look into that, because now we're going to have a problem this summer with none of our visitors being able to get there.
Doesn't the other service, the previous service, have that contract?
Yeah, I think that there is some. Maybe Madam Mayor.
Let the harbor master come up and speak for that. Thank you.
I need some clarity on that.
It's in discussions with the old shoreboat operator applying for a PUC permit. I'm sorry, not a PUC permit, a waterside permit, so they can operate out of Avalon to service the camps.
I'll see if I can find some information out for you by the next meeting to see where we're headed with that as far as Jeff Stickler's company.
Good.
Because he was talking about it.
Good. And on also semi-related topic, any progress on purchasing dock carts for boaters for use when hauling gear and provisioning? I know this has got to be the 50th time I've asked this, and every time you say we'll look into it, but nobody looks into it.
Has there ever been any discussion about leasing you a 2 or 4 foot square section on the pier that you could leave your dock cart there?
Well, the problem is not everybody has dock carts. Boaters who come in need dock carts. So normally when you get to a marina or you get to a mooring or an anchorage area, there are dock carts there you just use. And you bring them back. And, I know we had a little bit of discussion about having some way to pay and where people brought them back and got their money back or something, but we need something. Ex-Mayor Bob's getting tired of us all borrowing his.
You have someone behind you. Go ahead, Brian.
There's a vendor on the pier, Catalina Divers Supply. They have probably a dozen carts there for their dive gear that I'm sure they'd be willing to rent to anybody that wants to go in and get one. I've never had somebody come up to the office and ask for a dock cart.
I've needed a dock cart before, and I borrowed one of, Catalina Diver Supplies, brought it right back. But it was absolutely necessary, so I know what you mean. We had to bring some squid down the pier, and it was a whole ice chest full, and we had no way to do it. So I understand where you're coming from now, and you as a boater, so you guys have things like groceries, trash, maybe movable containers of, if you need to move sewage or anything like that, maybe boat parts, things like that, rope, buoys. That's the kind of things you're talking.
Everything from groceries to your clothing. I mean, if we go out for a trip for a week, we've probably got 8 dock carts full of stuff that have to be loaded onto dinghies or loaded onto the shore boats. And there's just no way to move any of that. There are no dock carts anywhere on this island.
Well, let me ask one question for clarification. Are you wanting the dock carts only to be on the pier, or are you wanting them to be taken over all over town like a Vaughn's cart?
Well, you need them on the dock cart, but if you're going to Vaughn's and picking up ice and water and groceries, you're going to have a way to get them there. So my idea would be to have something you pick them up on the pier. You go get your groceries or go get your gear, unload your golf carts or whatever, but you bring it back because you're transferring it to your boat. That's the whole idea. And people will bring them back for that reason. They need them on the pier to unload them.
We'd have to have an honor system or a system where you bring them back and you put a deposit down and you get your deposit when you bring them back? Because I know people would leave them around town, like we've had problems with grocery carts.
Well, I don't know perhaps this is something that 2 or 3 people could get their heads together and really talk about, because I don't know that it ever really has. Has it, in your recollection, other than Allison coming up here and asking all the time? I mean, go ahead, Brian Bray. Oh, he's just talking.
Maybe we could talk to Caleb in behalf of Allison and let them know that. I mean, I understand you're going to bat for the general public, but if that's something you need, maybe we could petition, Caleb at the Diver Supply, and when you need a cart, maybe we could get the okay for you.
Well, that's it. Even if somebody has them already, but would be willing to lend them to the boaters, if they simply knew they could borrow them, that would be helpful.
But this is where I was saying, has anybody spoken to you about the possibility of leasing space and having your own cart that you locked up to the railing or something? Because in my 10 years, I have not heard hardly any request other than you. And at Diver Supply, if somebody needed a cart, we would lend them a cart for 5 minutes to go down the pier and come back. So I just...
Well, it's not just me personally. I mean, it's every day, dozens of people hauling there's just no way to haul anything there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never seen another place that has boats that doesn't have dock carts. It's just something you expect to be there.
Do they usually have them for you put a quarter in?
No,
or you
usually
just
they're
take them?
free. You just take them and you bring them back.
And I think a lot of those harbors too are, closed-in gate harbors, or there's a parking lot right there where you're taking vehicles back and forth. That's been my history. So, I mean, if we want to, our 3 minutes are up for this, but if we want to, maybe look into it further, we could do that.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it from the...
No, I got Jim and
Oh,
Dan.
there. Okay.
Dan and I haven't rehearsed, so I don't want to steal his thunder. So I'll hit on the events I know the most about and hope he can fill in the gaps on anything else. So as alluded to by Councilmember Cassidy, we have a very full agenda in the coming days for both islanders and visitors alike. Cinco de Mayo is on Friday, and as such, we will have Lourdes Thorich has brought together a group of dancers once again, not quite as big of a production as she used to do, but they will be performing both Friday at the library at 4 p.m. and again during the Catalina Island Chili Cook-Off on the 6th, on Saturday, at one of the periods on the stage there. We have the downhill skate race coming back to the island this year with some corporate sponsorship, and that will therefore bring to us some other additional opportunities for viewing along the waterfront. I think you're going to probably be able to fill in that one with more detail, so I won't go any further on that one. We have First Friday at the museum. This week they'll be showing Nacho Libre, the movie, and serving nachos, and of course you can see the Chihuly exhibit while you're there. Just mentioned the chili cook-off is taking place all day Saturday on South Beach. There's still opportunity to enter your favorite chili recipe or your favorite salsa recipe. You can do that right up until, but the sooner you do it, the better we can all plan for the impact of that. And we look forward to seeing you all there for that. Last year, I had the good fortune of being one of the first people to toss a pitch at the dunk tank, and I'm happy to say the mayor is still my friend because I got her in on the second ball.
You still are.
And
I'm disappointed I wasn't invited back.
They haven't mentioned anything about me throwing out a ball either, so I think we've both been blacklisted.
Okay.
Later that evening, we will be hosting the next in our concert series on Wrigley Stage. We'll be, in keeping with the theme of the weekend, hosting Todo Mundo, which is a Latin crossover band. Easy listening, should be a lot of fun. Definitely danceable, but we're not staging it as a dance.
Very good.
And many of our area restaurants will be hosting specials for Cinco de Mayo and or Kentucky Derby Days because we have overlapping celebrations going on this weekend. This month is National Travel and Tourism Month. I've come to you the last 2 years during what U.S. Travel has called National Travel and Tourism Week, normally the first week in May. This year, the state of California has stretched that out to a whole month. So we're celebrating with the state, not the nation on this quite one. We're not seceding, Joe, but we're going with the state on this one. And in keeping with that, we'll be making a council presentation to you all briefly at the beginning of next council meeting. And I plan on bringing Lauren Schlau. She's the consultant that's worked on our visitor profile study to deliver some highlights of that. So you won't have to just listen to me. You'll have a much more interesting person here to talk to you about that. I thought that was timely for this time of year. And this year, instead of a proclamation for us to put on our wall, I'll be really quick, we are taking a long-term suggestion of Councilmember Olson's to reach out to the 2 or 3 LA TV stations that have the webcams that stream during the morning weather alerts, and we're going to try and name them in proclamations and hopefully even get somebody here to receive, and if not ceremonially, we'll receive on their behalf and send those on. So I'll reach out to you shortly, Denise, on that language. And the final thing is we're in the process of developing a summer-ready mega mixer, hopefully on May 18th. We're just ironing out a few more details, so the announcement will come forward shortly. But we'll be inviting all of our members to come have a peer-to-peer, hopefully on the pier, celebration of National Tourism Month, but also a chance to tell all your fellow frontliners about your offerings for the summer. So with that, I think I'll leave the rest to Dan.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you. That's
A mega mixer. That'll be a fun night.
Good evening. Just a couple things for this weekend. This is my first pass at it, but probably outside of July 4th, I would think the busiest weekend that we'll have throughout the course of the year. 3-day downhill. Levent has approached Monster to have them come out and do some exhibitions over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So on Wrigley Stage, as part of the weekend and the activities, we'll have a half pipe, 2/4 pipes put together on Wrigley Stage for some skateboarding exhibitions on Friday and Sunday. Saturday, as they're setting up for the concert, we're going to take a little break, take some of the pro skaters out to the skate park from 2 to 4 o'clock, barbecue with the kids. They're going to be out there, and the kids will be able to interact with the skaters, professional skaters, have some dialogue, skate together. And then we will have BMX as well, just off of the stage, both Friday, Saturday, and Sunday exhibitions throughout the afternoon. And there'll be some signage shortly and a banner up with those times throughout the day. We also have not only young guys, but we have Old Men's Rugby Festival coming out on Saturday. They're at Joe Machado Field all day on Saturday, and it was kind of a delight to get to talk to Mr. Henderson, and I think he's the brother of the beneficiary of this tournament. But what a joy it's going to be to see those guys come out for the first time for me and do their thing. I think that covers the weekend. A couple things coming up. We have a men's basketball season starting, the basketball league starting next week, Monday, the 8th. We are taking signups through tomorrow up at the gym during open gym time. Dave Hart will be up there. We're trying to lock down the teams for that. On the 13th, we have, it looks like 2 teams. Our Catalina Island Outrigger Canoe Club will be competing in San Diego, both a novice women's team and kind of a mixed men's team. So we'll be taking two crews of 6 out there for that weekend. Wish us luck there. May 17th, Prime Timers, we've got spots for that. We're going to do an excursion to 2 harbors, lunch at 2 harbors. You could register here at City Hall for $2, the price of admission, to get you transportation there and back. You'll buy your own lunch there, but it'll be a day in the interior with our Prime Timers. And then I think we're putting the final touches on trying to do a run, pitch, hit competition in conjunction with the Avalon Kids Baseball program. And so we should have that come out in the next week, and trying to coincide that with Councilman Hernandez. And then lastly, I was contacted by Long Beach attorney Chris Christ in regards to the parking and the damage that was done to those cars there in that parking structure at Golden Shore. So preliminary conversation with him last week. He was looking for some contacts. We got that to him. This is the first dialogue I've had with somebody on the other end, which is nice. I have heard from a couple people saying that the State Department is saying it wasn't our fault. and they've reached out to the folks that submitted their permits. So we are hopeful that Long Beach can be of some help there and give us some direction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that update, all those updates.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. I've just been asked to provide a quick update on our brush season. We've begun our regular run-up in preparation for the brush season. Brush notices were posted in the newspaper in April for 3 consecutive weeks. We've been working closely with multiple property owners including the Island Company, who has the lion's share of the headache this year with weed control, as well as City of Avalon crews at various locations. Just a reminder that homeowners are required to clear weeds that could readily transmit fire. For most homeowners, that's small areas where weeds have come up just because of the amount of rain we've had this winter. And any amount of defensible space that they can give us is going to be a huge help in the event of a wildfire. The late season rain has been a little bit of a headache for some folks. Some folks got way ahead of it, cleared their brush. We got some late season rain and it grew right back. So we're working with them. We conducted a brush review with LA County Fire last week as well as a joint drill. The county has a bulldozer, pre-positioned, as well as a fuel tanker with aviation fuel at the airport. And we expect to see the dozer and hand crews the last week of the month to touch up the fire breaks. And Avalon Fire has begun its usual wildland firefighter safety training and preparation. And then lastly, we just remind drone pilots, drone operators to be responsible in the event of a fire. If we have firefighting aircraft, they need to land their aircraft and be responsible drone operators.
Mike, let me ask you a question. How do we go about if those drones? Because I was under the understanding, I was hearing there was firefighters on the mainland that had to ground their choppers because of those drones were flying. How do we go about enforcing some kind of regulation or getting those things out of the air so that that doesn't happen here?
It's a problem nationwide.
Really?
CAL FIRE is really trying to get their arms around it. They're trying to do some public service announcement. They've established a weed tip line for irresponsible drone operators. The biggest issue seems to be a lot of times there's a drone that's flying and you don't know where the operator's at. But it's my understanding the new drones have an ID tag. Essentially, they're licensed. So if the drone crashes or if you have some way to get possession of that drone, you can trace it back to an individual owner. But it's very difficult to always know where the drone operator is.
Okay, so we ask the public to get involved and figure out whose drones those are so that we can somehow find some way to make sure that doesn't happen again from those operators. Or maybe if we have to come up with some kind of an ordinance, which I hate to do, but to say, no more of those things.
Well, it's an FAA violation. Right. So I think if there was somebody that saw somebody operating the drone in an irresponsible manner, they could report that.
Okay.
And then
law enforcement could take care of it at that point?
Correct.
Cool. Well, we have that.
Right. Any other question? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Micah Phillips, 318 Metropole. I originally came here this evening to ask for a plan on the polystyrene or styrofoam, but it's my understanding now it's on the agenda for the next meeting.
There will be a report to the council.
And I don't know who did that, but I would like to thank whoever it was.
Dan Hunke is the staff assigned, and he was doing that. Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. My only concern is I've heard there's a recommendation out to grade local businesses on their use of polystyrene, that to give them an environmental score. I heard that's come through the.
I don't know of anything about that, but when we see the report, we'd be happy to make it available to you. When we have it, if you leave contact, we'll be sure you get it. I don't know if that's in the staff report.
I would just like to urge you not to go with that recommendation. To me, we don't need symbolic half measures. If we're going to do it right, like 99 other cities. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, I would like to ask you, So is this just, when we do this, and you can answer this if you want, Micah, if you've got any considerations, where does that leave us? Because every single package that comes into town is wrapped in styrofoam. Half the things in the store are wrapped in styrofoam. Everything that comes from Amazon is wrapped in styrofoam. Every time you get a refrigerator, a microwave, it's all styrofoam and plastic. And so what are we doing? Because now what Vaughn's has done is we've gone from getting free bags, really lightweight bags, to having to pay. They started off at 10 cents, then 15. Now those bags are 25 cents. No. And it seems like there's just as many being used as those other little lightweight bags that we used to use. But I'm just wondering, what does this do in the big scope of things? Is this just symbolic and it starts us off in the right direction?
First on the bags. My understanding, when we did research a little while ago in another place, that the bag is about 5 cents. So anything above 5, maybe today it's 7, but
it's
anything
25
above
cents here.
Well, I'm saying, but I mean the actual cost. So the state did, of course, enact legislation that preempted us locally, except in the area of styrofoam. With those ordinances that I've seen in places, they give usually people a lead time to eliminate whatever inventory they have of the product. There's a little bit of lead time. And then Mr. Hunke can, in the report, maybe he's done some research which will be helpful in answering the larger question that I think you're asking about. How does it affect Amazon.com
Sure.
that's bringing stuff in?
Maybe we should write a letter to all these other manufacturers and tell them, hey, we're not going to buy anything from you if it has styrofoam in it. I mean, really, how effective is this going to be? And
No, it's a good question.
It generally does not apply to prepackaged things that you buy over the internet or ship in. It's mainly directed at local businesses.
I'm concerned
and the way
about
that they package.
directing things at local businesses because they're already taxed enough. That if you called them up and you just told them, hey, you think you could switch over to paper? I think they would do it. Mm-hmm. But if we start scrutinizing them and hammering them, and like Micah said, if we start grading them, it's like, oh, this is a bad business because they have a styrofoam cup, and they. But I understand what his environmental concern is because, we got to treat the environment the best we can. But how much do we want to get involved in this? If we really want to roll up our shirt sleeves and get involved as a city, we should start writing letters to manufacturers that use this stuff all over the country, or the biggest manufacturers, because we are dumping tons of this stuff, and it goes into our landfills, and it goes we have to ship it off the island all the time, and it goes so much farther than a restaurant having a little cup that's styrofoam.
The council's previous direction to staff was to develop a ordinance that regulated and banned styrofoam, and so Mr. Hunke has been working on that, and that we'll bring that to the next meeting as a status report.
Okay,
where we are.
I don't want to target small businesses though. I want to be lenient on them, but I definitely see the environmental aspect of it, and we should ask them. Write them a letter if you see that this, because I know a lot of the ice cream stores, they use it for ice cream because it obviously lasts longer. So maybe we'll sell more ice cream in cardboard cups because it starts melting faster, and then you have to eat it faster. So we can do that, and maybe people will see that and appreciate it, that we're doing our part here in our community, but nationwide and worldwide. Maybe we ought to think on that level too, because we might be able to change, the policies of the world when we start saying, "Hey, you can wrap that thing in paper instead of styrofoam." I don't know how far that'll go, but we can start right there.
Well, your point, Councilman, if I may, it seems to me that that education of people about what they will or will not accept is actually the best enforcement, because if companies know that people aren't going to accept it, they're not going to produce the product. But sometimes, but of course, rules are always made, as you know, when items coming up for exceptions, because of exceptions that you deal with people who don't want to comply with rules. But the education is that foundation of what is acceptable, and business normally will respond to what people want because they want to sell their product.
Maybe this is the start of all that, and this conversation is well worthwhile because, and I appreciate Micah you getting up here and giving us your input on this because it's a worthwhile cause. I absolutely agree with you. So thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll go to the consent calendar.
Madam Mayor, if I may, with your permission, I just want to mention that there has been a request by Southern California Edison and Ms. Jung to pull from the agenda the amendment to this conservation element of the general plan. And the purpose really is for us to have a more detailed conversation about the plan, what its components would be, so to see if we can arrive at an agreement on what might be acceptable or what isn't acceptable. And with your permission, I just want to mention that if anyone's here for that purpose, if that's all right with you.
That's fine.
And the council.
Going item number 7.
On consent calendar, you have actions. Item number 1 is to approve actions from the April 18, 2017 regular city council meeting. Item number 2 is the fuel dock ice freezers. It's to authorize the harbor master to purchase 2 Polar 600 AD ice freezers from the Northwind Refrigeration Company, I guess, in the amount of $5,776.38. Excuse me. Item number 3 is the Avalon Cemetery expansion site preparation. The recommended action is to award a contract to Joro Construction for Avalon Cemetery expansion site preparation, authorize the city manager to execute a contract for not to exceed amount of $15,000 when appropriate permits are gained for that activity. That would be an amendment to that because the city attorneys, it's been pointed out that maybe we need to get some permissions that we have not yet had. Item number 4 is renewal of general services agreement with Los Angeles County. The recommended action is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a 5-year general services agreement with the County of Los Angeles to use county services on a as-needed and as-requested basis, and authorizing the city manager to execute any county sub-agreements for services up to an individual cost of $5,000. What I asked a question one of the council members did about this item, and simply say that this gives us, so if we need something from LA County that they're not already providing, we have an agreement in place that we can access that, and we don't have to go through a long delay of getting agreements done. This has been done in the past, and it's just a renewal of the past agreement.
And I believe you also said that, but in case of an emergency, if there's that emergency, what did you call that?
Yeah, we have mutual aid. We have mutual aid with agencies that already agreements are in place for them to provide mutual aid for whatever purposes, public safety purposes that might exist.
Okay, Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to pull and abstain from item number 2 due to a financial conflict of interest.
Are you pulling or just abstaining?
Well, I need to leave the room, so
Okay.
whatever you want to do.
So we'll keep it on, but...
Keep it on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm abstaining from item number 2.
So you can't pull it if you're abstaining, right?
Well, I just want to...
Yeah,
She wants to pull it so that she can leave the room during the vote on that matter. Although if it's on a consent calendar...
Oh, I see, okay.
If it's on a consent calendar...
Well, how can you pull it if you're abstaining?
No. She wants to pull it so that she can leave the room and vote on the rest of the consent calendar.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then
But you're
we come
saying I
back
don't
to
need
it.
to leave the room.
But the law is, if it's a consent calendar item, heard along with a number of others, that you just need to abstain from it, note the conflict of interest, and then you can... you don't have to leave the room if there's no discussion on it.
Okay.
Which is what you've done in the past with respect to expenses.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, okay. All right, is there a motion?
I'll move staff on 1 to 4.
Okay. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And item 3 also then, though, it included that little amendment about
All required permits, yes.
All required
Yes.
permits, yes. Okay. Okay. Call for the vote again?
I got it. It's all ayes.
Oh, okay. Okay, general business. Item number 5.
Okay, item number 5 is an item that our office was directed to prepare pursuant to the direction of the city manager. And what we were told was to review the regulations of other cities with respect to vicious dogs and come up with the most aggressive ordinance we could dealing with this. So we've done that. It is up to the council to decide if you want to adopt the ordinance in total or whether you want to amend things. So I think it's appropriate to I'm going to walk through the various amendments that we did so you can understand. So if you go to your staff report and go to the ordinance itself, on page number 2 of the ordinance, what we did here, the only change is under section 6-1-109-4, we added 4 that said that there's a separate penalty provision for potentially dangerous or vicious dogs. So we just said that there's a separate statutory scheme for violations with those type of dogs. Then the next page, on the top of it, currently your municipal code does not allow dogs to be in areas around Crescent Avenue and that whole area, but says that when you're leaving the boat or your boat, you can transport them through that area, but they have to be on a leash.
What, boat? Oh, boats only?
Yes. Well, no. Just on a leash now. That's all it's required by now is they can't be in that area at all. And when you're traveling from it, it's defined on page 2. All public beaches, Crescent Avenue at its intersection with Metropole Ave to its intersection with Clarissa, Sumner Avenue from its intersection with Crescent Avenue to its intersection at Calle de Paseo, and Avalon Avenue from Calle de Paseo.
Do you really want to do this?
No, again, let me do this right. This is already what the law is. This is what the law is.
I know this is what the law is, but this is not the problem. The problem is pit bulls, okay? The last 5 dog attacks have been pit bulls.
Okay,
I've never seen a Cocker Spaniel rip apart a human being or another dog, okay?
I understand. I'm trying to go through what the amendments are.
You know, we know all this, and we know that the ordinance is also enforced in a good way right now, except those dogs. Okay, I know you can't put a finger on pit bulls. Is that what the problem is?
Yeah, the problem is state law says that the only way you can regulate any breed in California is to require that a certain breed be spayed or neutered. Other than that, state law does not allow a city to draft any type of regulations regarding certain breeds of dogs, period. And it's been that way for years, and there's been many, many instances where people have been killed, kids have been killed, and they've tried to change the state law, and every time the state legislature and the governor says, no, we're not going to change law. So right now, the only thing we can do with breeds
is there any way we can override that law as a city, municipal?
No. It's just absolutely prohibited. No city in California does it.
I'm just going in the direction of muzzles and leashes mandatory to start, and then insurance, things like that.
All right, so let me just, if I can walk through the rest of it, what we're adding here is in those areas the dogs need to be muzzled. The next on the bottom of page 3, we're adding a definition of a potentially dangerous dog. You don't have that right now, so we're adding that. On page 4, we are adding to the definition of a vicious dog, a dog that has been deemed vicious by another jurisdiction. So, in other words, if we haven't designated it yet as a vicious dog, if another city has, then that dog is automatically deemed a vicious dog for Avalon.
About insurance. Insurance. The dog owner has to have insurance.
We could definitely add that if that's the council direction. I'm not aware of any other city that does that, but that doesn't mean that we can't require that as part of the license. The next section that we've added is on page 4. It's section 5B. We've added that to specifically state that if you've got one of these potentially dangerous dogs or a vicious dog in Avalon and you're in violation, the fine is $500 for a potentially dangerous dog or $1,000 for a vicious dog. Now, section 6, which starts at the bottom of page 4 and goes on to the next one, as well as section 7 and section 8 of the ordinance, you do not currently have a procedure in your municipal code where you can designate dogs as potentially dangerous, and you do not have a procedure whereby you can go to court and have a dog destroyed. And so what we, or otherwise put in. What we've done here is right now, and what we're doing now is we have to go to court to get that done. State law allows you to implement your own procedures to have someone designated by the city council. In this case, we're suggesting it be an animal control officer, which would either be the city manager or someone that he designates. That person would be the party responsible for having a hearing to determine whether a dog is potentially dangerous, or should be destroyed. Right now, you have to go to court to do it. We're adding the optional procedure. You keep it here, you keep it local. So again, you can do this if you want. You don't have to. We're just giving you something that other cities have, you don't have. So it's an additional power.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Let's say that there's a dog and he's got a human being in his mouth and he's killing the human being. Can the sheriffs go up and shoot him?
Sheriffs can use reasonable force to prevent a
I mean, if
serious
it's safe, because I know
bodily
they have to use their own reason when they shoot something and when they're talking about ricocheting.
We're not talking about, this is after an incident, and what regulations can a city do? The law enforcement is always entitled to use lethal force if the situation requires it. So they can do that.
How about now law enforcement? I know our harbor patrolmen aren't armed, but maybe we need to start thinking about that. And I know we're talking about that post certification. Since our own personal private law enforcement was the first on the scene in this last dog attack, maybe we ought to start thinking about having a gun locker out at the Harbor Patrol office too.
And they also were very helpful in resolving, or at least remedying
without lethal force.
Without lethal, but I think your
I'm
point,
saying in the future,
yes,
this guy almost died. So
the last two changes here are on page 6. We are adopting a mandatory spay and neuter program for certain breeds. The breeds include pit bulls and similar dogs. We have also reserved, if you'll see in section 2 and section 3, if subsequently there's another breed that we want to add to it. So we're requiring that if you have this dog, it has to be spayed or neutered before it can be in the city. And lastly, section 10 is state law requires that if you adopt a mandatory spay and neuter program, that you are required to keep statistics on the dog bites as a way of monitoring whether the spay and neuter program is actually reducing dog bites. So this is the ordinance that we were instructed to draft. It's taking about 5 or 6 other cities and taking everything that they've done and putting it in one ordinance for the council's consideration. So you can go by, this is a first reading, which means we can make changes, we can add, we can delete, or we can do more studies. The only other thing I would add is I did have a conversation with Joanne Rainey from Parsac, who requested that at a minimum that the city enforce added the muzzle requirement to areas where we prohibit dogs as you're walking through them, to require muzzles on those dogs.
Down on Front Street?
Yes.
Are you kidding? There's so many. 99% of the dogs are totally innocent, beautiful little dogs, and their owners are responsible. So we're going to go through these measures just because.
Again,
I mean, it's not. These aren't the troubled dogs. The ones that are identified in here are the problems. I don't want to see all dogs and law enforcement come down on all dog owners. That is going to take away revenue from the city. It's going to restrict revenue. It's not good. I'm telling you. There's too many dog owners in this community.
Again, I'm following direction to provide all the options. This is a menu for things you can do, and now it's up to the council to decide what you want to order off the menu.
So if right now the dogs are not allowed to walk on Front Street or the beach, the muzzle should be a moot point. The muzzle on the pier, perhaps, because these are people getting off people's boats. We don't know these dogs and whatever.
Right.
So maybe there. And the other thing is, I'm a little concerned about, you have dogs that are muzzled on the boats or in carriers. They come up a little narrow ramp like those pits did, and you come and meet 300 people waiting to get on a boat. And you're in a very confined area. So if my little dog is sitting there and I don't have her in the carrier yet, and another dog comes up, I mean, I don't know that we should include, because the mole isn't included in this. And I don't know, I think it's up for discussion if it should be, because you need to walk past all of those people, I would think, before I let my dog out of the case.
It's probably a point where the dogs are maybe more likely to be agitated.
Yeah, because they're not happy to have had that muzzle on the boat anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes people let them off the muzzle before they even get
And there's
on the
nuisance
ramp.
dogs, which I don't want them to be targeted, because those little yappity dogs, there's no reason that dog should die because, or their owners get bit because they're yappity. They're not going to hurt anybody. They're just yappity. If it agitates another dog to the point to where that dog starts biting people, that's a problem. That problem dog is not the yappity dog. It's the dog that has the potential to do a human or another animal or another small, dog harm, grave harm. We've seen.
Two other things, and then I'll turn this over to the council to provide direction. One discussion we also had with Parsec is anything that we do, it's all about, you can write all the best laws possible. It's all about enforcing it. And so that is there. And then again, what this does is it doesn't outlaw dogs. It provides due process for you can deem a dog dangerous. You can deem it potentially dangerous. There's a process you have to go through. Right now, you have to go to court. Now we're bringing the option here. We will tell you that when you go to court, the majority of the cases, even when a dog does something horrible, the recent trend we have seen is judges will not order the destruction of dogs. They tend to require muzzles or other things or training. So that's been a recent trend.
So if somebody comes off a boat and they have a dog without a muzzle, we can send them back. But we have to provide a place where they can get a muzzle in town. Maybe we should, or maybe that's an opportunity for someone to start a business.
They don't get off the boat without a muzzle. They don't get on the boat without a muzzle.
No,
on their private boats.
Yeah.
So if they come off and get on the dinghy dock, the harbor patrolman says, you got to get that dog out of here, back on your boat. I don't care what you do with him, just get him out of here, because he can't come on that pier or even on the dock without a muzzle.
So
Yes.
the people that let's just take this a little further. So you got the cute little Shih Tzu. Somebody must own a Shih Tzu, and you're on your boat. You're on your little fancy boat, and you come off, and you got your little Shih Tzu
in your arm.
So he needs to be in a case, or he could be in my big satchel, and I could just carry the little Shih Tzu off the pier like that.
Can you do that?
And yes, she is, Madam Mayor. Yes, she is.
Cocker Spaniel, whatever kind of dog you want.
Okay. So they have to. Okay.
Well, so you put them in a container would be equal as
A muzzle.
as a muzzle.
Yes, for the
or yes.
Yeah, and you have that in here.
Except the potentially lethal dogs.
Well,
I think anywhere in town they should be muzzled.
People or dogs?
Dogs.
Oh.
No, the potentially dangerous dogs and the dangerous dogs.
Well, we don't allow. Okay, once a dog has been deemed potentially dangerous or dangerous, it's not allowed in the city. Period.
Okay, great.
It cannot be
According
here.
to them.
Yes.
I will
They're
say,
just not allowed.
I will say this, if I may, Mr. Council. Good. I just want to mention that what I think we appreciate very much is that the Captain Hawking and the deputies have indicated strong support for aiding enforcement, not just of our code, because our code people have a lot to do, but they are also, and I've heard some feedback actually now on the street from, because they are asking people to follow the signs and do the things. So that's a real asset in enforcing whatever laws you have in place, is to make sure.
I don't want people to be scared away from Front Street with a little dog that's harmless, okay? Because they're basically pushing money away from the coffers of the businesses of Avalon.
If I may, and my wife's told me not to be cool on this, but it's not the Shih Tzus or the Pekingese, as you pointed out, or the what are those little hot dogs, I call them, but they're those little
schnauzers,
or the schnauzers and others.
Yeah.
It's not those dogs that can create harm. It's dogs that have been bred in historically for fighting. It's dogs that have powerful jaws that when they lock into a body, whether it be an animal or it be a person, that they can create severe damage. That's the real problem.
They're bred to kill you.
And
They're bred to kill whatever they
the state
bite.
of California, for whatever reason, doesn't understand the people who run it. Maybe they've never been bitten by a pit bull or had their animal killed by these and there's not just pit bulls, it's Rottweilers and others if you look on the websites. So unfortunately, the rules get generic when it's not the Pekingese and it's of course not the Shih Tzu who would be dangerous. But it's those you wouldn't have a lion could be raised from a cub. And might be friendly until you're something in Roy. What was the Siegfried and Roy? And the lion attacks him and almost kills him. It's a tiger, but it's a type of animal that is so strong that if it does get vicious, it could be all over. And that's the problem that you as policymakers are faced with. You know what the real problem is, but how do you regulate it in a way that's legal?
The problem is where our hands are tied right now because of the law in Sacramento. That's what I see the problem is, because if it was up to me, I'd just say all pit bulls need to be muzzled and leashed because they're all potential. They're beautiful dogs, and I know they're great training dogs, but they all have the potential, and they were bred to lock on and kill for good. Put something and kill it and take it out of its misery, and they go for jugular. They go for your right where all your main arteries are, under your arm, down here by your leg and your neck. That's what they're trained to do. And so we got to make this strong, but I don't want people to be scared to be shoved away from Front Street with dogs. I sat down there the other day after the dog attack, and there was dozens of people coming through with their dogs, and they were just perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with most of the dog owners. Like poor Paula, she was just walking her dog, and she was totally attacked. Just because of a dog owner that was very they were totally irresponsible and totally unaware that their dog was just a killer animal. But to them, it was their pit bull, but it was their pet, which, like I said, they're great pets. But when you get them out in public, something sparks them off. Maybe it's a black cat. Maybe it's a little kid crying. Maybe it's another dog barking at it. Whatever it is, that little dog barking at it, it does not have the potential to kill you. But those dogs do. So our hands tied behind our backs. I think this is a pretty firm statement here that you've made, and the work you've done is pretty good. But I just don't want all dog owners to be punished in Avalon. That's all. I don't want the sheriffs to go around busting everybody for having their dog out on a leash, out on a walk without a leash, or without a muzzle on it, or walking down on Front Street to get a donut or something, or walking out on the pier, walking through Front Street to get to the park. I don't want those people to be harassed at this point, and I'm afraid this is what it's going to do.
And I might be misunderstanding where specifically you're talking about, Joe, but we already have an ordinance in the city of Avalon, no dogs on Front Street, whether they're leashed or not. According to the city's ordinance, the only way is if it's a service animal, a true service animal, or
You can't
transportation.
ask somebody whether it's a service animal. It's against the law.
Well, you can't ask them what the task is that they're trained to
Yeah,
perform.
okay,
But
so-
that being said, our ordinance says if the allowance of dogs on Crescent is to be able to go from a place in town back to their vessel, or from their vessel to a particular place in town. So I don't think we're not punishing anybody further, but I the way that this read to me and comparing it to the old ordinances, all we're doing is adding in the portions of the vicious animals to clear up and give us the basis to go forward from these two incidences that have happened recently.
With the one exception that we are requiring muzzles in that area. Correct. That's the only other change. So the one addition is on Front Street. The dogs that are not supposed to be there, but as you're transporting them through, right now they're supposed to be on a leash. We are, to be aggressive, you can reject it. We're requiring a muzzle. You can take that out, and if you do, the ordinance would be, you'd be adopting the definitions of dangerous dogs, and you'd have your own procedures for the designation, so you don't have to go to court, and then the mandatory spay and neuter program.
So we're talking about dogs coming off the boats, coming down the pier.
Right.
Is that what we're basically talking about?
Well, no, actually.
Coming down Front Street, right? Coming off a boat there?
No.
Going to or coming back.
Going to or from?
The current, okay, that's the only exception to the rule. Right now, your ordinance, which was adopted in 75, says there's no animals allowed on Front Street, period. Right. Except to go from one place to another through that area, unless they're a service dog. And so what we're saying is, and they're supposed to be on a leash. So the only thing we're adding is a muzzle. You can direct us to how you want to deal with that. I mean, but
Well, I guess
it's what the law is.
Well, or then do you just say they're muzzled until they get past Crescent to Third, and then if they want to go anywhere else, they just go around?
Yeah.
Or because we're saying with the muzzles, they'll be able to walk down. If I'm going to the big Vons, I'd be able to walk my pit with the muzzle, walk it down Front Street to go to Vons.
Or you can leave the ordinance as is on that issue, adopt everything else with respect to the vicious animals in the spay and neuter program, and with the adoption of the ordinance, direct staff to make certain that we rigorously enforce the law that's there with respect to these vicious dogs.
But you can't direct it to be, you can't direct the muzzle portion of it to be specifically to these breeds. That's the issue that we're faced with.
Yeah,
okay.
But you just cannot.
So the biggest failure that I see us running into is the lack of outreach that we do when we make decisions like this. That we make a great decision, greater good of the community, we're doing the right thing, but then we don't tell anybody. So I guess if we move forward, my request would be that we do an extensive marketing campaign, both in city newspapers and with our local boating community, yacht clubs,
signs,
on the mainland, because it's obvious our local residents don't even read the signs that say no dogs on Front Street. And I'm not, a majority of the dogs that we have in town, let's say 95% of the dogs we have in town are not vicious or not going to go attack someone. But these situations have happened. And
there's seatbelt laws that aren't enforced. There's
right. No, I
there's
understand
telephone
that.
laws. It's not that we don't go out there and do it. We're relaxed on those things because they're not a problem.
So that's my second point that I wanted to make was regarding to enforcement. Is that it's hard when I'm sure any one of us, but if we're walking down Front Street and somebody says, look, there's a dog over there and there's a dog on Front Street. And it's like, well, you can't have an animal control officer or sheriff's department deputy next to you at all times. But when we do have instances, especially with something new like this, if there's any way that we can take some sort of statistics, that we write down the name of the person that code enforcement talked to or the sheriff's department has talked to, so that if we're talking to the same people over and over again, giving them warnings that, hey, XYZ comes up every month on our list of people we're talking to about not following the rules, and start actually writing tickets. I mean, we all get it too, where somebody rolls through a stop sign and they get pulled over by the sheriff's department. And the next thing I know is they're sitting in my office for 45 minutes screaming at me about the fact that they got pulled over through a roll through and a stop sign, but yet, XYZ didn't and they didn't. And I watched them do it and I watched them do it. So, I mean, it's got to be like a team. It's got to be a team thing where we say, this is an issue. Let's do what we can do on our end. Let's market it out there into our community that this is what we're doing and make sure everybody's aware of it, and then have that understanding. If there's a way to do statistics, let's do that too. Let's get some names out there.
I'd say we go to Sacramento and we change the ordinance to fit our community. We change the law. We make a campaign and we write letters to change it to satisfy our community. I like the way the law is enforced right now. I like the way all the laws are enforced. I don't want the strong arm of the law to come down on every citizen in this town that has a dog, or everybody that doesn't wear a seatbelt, or some things are dumb, like little kids in vehicles without a seatbelt. I think is just stupid and very irresponsible. You pull over when you're talking on your cell phone. People still do it, but that's something that you should do because it takes your concentration off what you're doing.
Well, Joseph, let me ask you this, Councilman. Okay. Are you kind of agreeing that the muzzle or the carrying case off of the pier is something that should be done?
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
I like the muzzle and the leash and the carrying case off the pier.
Okay.
But I don't like everything else changed.
Okay, what about the mole? Having this done
Yeah,
at the mole as well?
The mole as well. The mole is one of those places.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it looks like
Too
we have a
many
little
people.
consensus to that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's ask spay and neuter.
I think that's great.
The dog should be,
Yeah.
the pit should be spayed and neutered.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
And is that a way, maybe we talk about it during budgeting and licensing, but is there a way to do such a thing where we charge $500 for a license, but if you spay and neuter, your fee is only the other fee?
So right now, what you charge is
$26.
$28 for a non-neutered or spayed, and double for one that is. Los Angeles, I know, because I have a dog and I waited to get it licensed. It was $30 or $300. So we waited until we had her spayed, and then we got the license. So you can have we can look at the fee schedule when we're bringing it up to make certain that we have a higher fee if you're not going to have your dog.
And I would like to look at that too, in the total charge for when you get fines and stuff. It's only $100. I would like to see something with teeth in it.
Yeah, substantial.
So when somebody has an incident, something happens, you're not going to get fined $100. Some people.
Well, no. Okay, it's if an incident happens, then if there are
All the things we can do.
there are criminal things.
I get the $500 that, right?
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
what you're getting to?
Yes.
Yeah. But other ones when animals are running around without leashes and this and that, maybe you gotta put a little more teeth. I see that there for 100 and 200, right?
Yes, it's 50
that's what
to
I'm
100.
getting at. Maybe we ought to kick that up a little bit and make people more responsible to keep their dogs on leashes a little bit and get down to it and kick that up a little bit. So people will be a little more responsible with their animal. Just a thought.
Mayor, Councilmember Cassidy spoke about the need to get information out to people. One of the bits of information about vicious animals, even if they're not killed, is that not only can the owner be civilly liable, but they can be criminally liable if it can be shown to the district attorney that there is a pattern of action, the irresponsible ownership, and so on. So that information is very important to let people know that having an animal that is vicious or potentially vicious can be more than just a slap on the wrist. It can be a criminal, and the captain's shaking his head in acknowledgement. And so that education component and marketing component of that information may help also.
So again, okay, so it's the muzzle. Okay, so what is the fines, and then what's the other big one?
The big one is that adopting a procedure for Avalon so that you don't have to go to court and wait till
Right.
a court hearing.
Okay.
Now, there's a certain provision you have to wait till 10 days usually, because if a dog is bitten someone, you got to do it for rabies.
Right.
We're not changing that, but this just allows, you don't have to go to court. You don't have to go over town or wait till the judge is here. You can do it administratively here. It's at the option. You can still go to court, or you can have the animal control officer make that decision.
Okay. And just kind of to piggyback on something that Councilman Sampson said, because I spoke with the Harbor Department as well after the incident, and they have no means of defense. They don't have a taser. They don't have anything. Well, in code either. So
we protecting our people?
Well, I know. So maybe do we need to beef that up in that regard so that they're not just sticking their hand out there?
We clearly have to look at not only protecting the public, but also protecting those people who are the Sheriff's Department can take care of themselves, I'm sure. And not that our people can't, but they need whatever tools are appropriate to take care of themselves too. And that's a very good point that I'm sure all the Harbor Department and others, but we need to look at that.
Yeah.
I think we had to start with code with that one.
And with regard to the dogs, this ordinance solves that issue by muzzling dogs. So that's one step in the right direction of making sure that they're safe on the pier.
Yeah.
If
Well,
the dogs
yes.
are if
Yeah.
dogs are muzzled, then
Yes. Yes.
And then
What about on their own boats, even? Can't do that?
Anything they want to do.
Okay.
Their boat.
They want to get eaten by their own dog. That's their
So,
problem.
just to get, I'm not clear on this, but I think code could write tickets, right, for dogs that aren't on leashes.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Our code.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we have to ensure, as we with vehicles, that we have a mechanism to ensure that we are collecting the fines and that there are remedies to the collection process and not just writing tickets that people ignore.
Right.
And not that, and I know that staff is working on that to make sure that we have a way that a ticket really means something in terms of enforcement. And so that it has teeth in it. It's no pun intended.
Okay,
But
so what about my point that we could potentially reach out to the agencies in Sacramento and ask them if we could have some kind of an amendment to their law that would satisfy our needs?
I think we can definitely approach our assembly person and senator. I will just tell you that in the past, when you've had infants whose heads are crushed by pit bulls and killed, they've gone to Sacramento and they haven't been able to change the law.
It's all online.
It's just it's stunning to me. But
Who in Sacramento is making these decisions? Because let's find these names and let's not vote for them. Let's vote them out of office. So let's go ahead with this and figure out, because this is something that's extremely important to our community, making it right for our community that these dogs are muzzled and leashed at all times, not just when they come off the pier. That way everybody's protected from this point on. That's the only law that's going to have teeth for us to put forward in our community.
And we'll definitely take that up if that's the council direction.
Because
with
we
the
can't
state
ask the
legislature.
sheriffs to go around shooting these dogs when they start biting people, and we can't ask the dog not to please don't kill this person or don't bite them. The dogs are bred to do that. So there's only one way to protect our citizens, and that is to go to Sacramento and make them understand that we need this change for our community.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
Just comment that one option, if you continue with the direction that you're providing, is to approach the Public Safety Committee, Policy Committee at the League, and present what I think for many people is pretty obvious, to support an initiative, not an initiative, but to support a proposal that would change the law or modify the law in some way, and that would give strength to any legislative action. It might be something in addition, separate from this, but ask the Public Policy Committee of the Public Safety Committee, of the League of Cities, of which we're members, to support a change in the law, and they carry a lot of weight, as I know you know.
And I think lastly, to clarify, I know there's folks in the audience that are itching to talk to us, which is
Right.
good, but what Councilmember Hernandez was saying, I see 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning every single day, at least one, if not 2 or 3 or 4 dogs unleashed in the Avalon Bowl at any given point in the morning. And so, you know, it's the same people day after day after day. It's the same people that other people see them up in the canyon or other places. I realize we don't have a dog park. We're working on it. I realize that we don't have a lot of options for dogs to run on this island. And it's also, you know, you kind of know that when, you know, you're bringing an animal to be in this community. But, you know, what do we do? So there isn't code enforcement around all the time. I mean, I many times have told people to pick up a cigarette and been told some pretty horrific things. You know, pick up your trash you just dropped, and I get screamed at. You get threatened. I tell a dog owner that, you know, you need to have your dog on a leash. I'm not comfortable with your dog running up to me. It makes me uncomfortable, and your dog is not a dog that's going to hurt anybody. What is the average person to do? Because we have 2 code enforcements. We have 2, maybe 3 sheriff's deputies at any given point in time. I mean, there's just, what do you do?
Well, your point, I think in part, if I may, your part is until people are educated that it's really going to be enforced, until they're aware of that, and that there are consequences of their action. Behavior doesn't change for some. And I just recently, as you mentioned, saw off of Whitley heading toward the casino, I think it was last night or the day before, last evening, people letting the 2, one of which was the subject of there was a pit bull running, and I mean, you know, my comments that I made didn't help.
We're talking about pit bulls right now. I mean, we're not talking about
Pekingese,
seat belts, or someone walking out of the bar after they've had a couple drinks and they're drunk. But you know what? I don't want everybody that has a couple drinks to be busted because they're drunk. We have 35 bars in this town. We make a bunch of money from that. We make money from everything that we do in this town. And if we start doing this to people, I don't think it's good. I mean, it's the law, but it's there's the letter of the law and then the spirit of the law. Okay, I know Cindy hates this, but you know what? If you want to become this kind of society where everybody has to do exactly what the law says, or you're going to be busted, you're going to get a ticket, you're going to go to jail. I don't even want to live in that city. I don't even want to be part of it. You know what? I like the way it is. I like the way it is, and I don't like people being eaten alive by dogs that are bred to kill. That's what we're talking about. None of this other stuff, okay?
Okay. And just another little question, and then I'll open it up to the community. On the pit bulls included, blah, 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 by AKC standards. So my Labrador gets together with a pit bull. If it looks like a pit, it is a pit. It smells like a pit. I mean, how do you...
Good point.
You know, it's only like Fiona, Chihuahua and pit bull.
Okay, well,
You know?
because what we've done is there's a specific breed, and then we've added, or any dog that exhibits physical characteristics, and then there's standards that the kennel people have put out, so that if it's a mixed breed, that still would qualify for this program under their standards.
So our code enforcement and our law enforcement people and our Harvard people and everybody needs to know what that is.
Well,
kind of.
Yes. I mean, we can provide the list.
Yeah. Okay.
Just one more thing before we go. Just curious, if something happened right now and we needed to board that animal, where do we take it? We haven't talked about where we're going to store, what we're going to build. Do we have anything? It's been 2 weeks, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
So where do we go? If something happened tonight, you needed to
besides the sheriff's department restroom. Yes, and I believe that there has been. Is it up in the can? Is it in the
It's at
canyon?
It's out by the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes.
We did not dismantle the temporary one we had. It's still there for the purpose in case
They
we
laid out some concrete and put some,
So we built something, or we have
We have a temporary place.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we need is a temporary place for now, right?
Because
So when we get our dog park, we can.
Because any dog that's going to be there should only be there temporarily.
Well,
Okay, so we do have a place to incarcerate.
Yes, and we have asked the Humane Society for some information about creating a quarantine area out near the hazardous waste, and you have the cat. I don't say cat house, but
Sanctuary.
and then there's the hazardous. Then there's the area adjacent. We've had conversations with them about what would it take to create an impound area there, and we're waiting for that information. But there's been temporary. Yeah.
Well, shall we open it up to the community? Anybody have comments?
Absolutely.
Yes, Rosie, come on up. And Iris next.
Good evening. I was a vet tech for 10 years. I have handled every kind of breed, and I'm going to tell you, there isn't a single breed of dog that was bred to be mean. It's the owner who is responsible for the temperament of their dog. It is not the animal. I've been bit by more chihuahuas than I have been bit by any other breed of animal. They are the nastiest little things when they get to the vet's office. However, Staffordshire Terriers, known as the nanny dog. In England, they use them to babysit their children. They look very much like pit bulls. How are you going to determine which is a pit bull and which is a Staffordshire Terrier? If an animal is vicious, it's the owner who should be penalized. It's the owner who should go to jail for animal abuse because they allowed their animal to be vicious. And I'd like to also make a statement about that incident that happened on the pier with the 2 pit bulls and that little dog. That little dog attacked another dog 2 days earlier. It was that little dog who started that whole thing because it went after the owner of the pit bulls. And the pit bulls were protecting its owner. You did not see the whole video. The whole incident was not on video, just the last part where you saw the pit bull attacking. You did not see the little dog going after the pit bulls first.
I didn't mention that dog was the nuisance dog. It was the it antagonized
it antagonized them.
But it's not going to kill anybody.
The thing is, are you kidding? That dog could kill a child easily. That little dog could kill a child very easily. And pit bulls are not bred to be killers. They're bred to be dogs, and it's the owners who train them to be killers. So it's the human in that whole scenario that is responsible, and the human should be brought up on charges of animal abuse for making what could be a wonderful animal into something ugly.
That's going to happen.
So like I said, you can't hold a whole breed responsible for the actions of a few. It's like what we're going through now with immigration. You're doing the exact same thing to pit bulls.
The last 5 dog attacks on the island have been pit bulls.
Only because the owners wanted their dogs to be mean.
Well,
you can have... How many German shepherds have attacked people on this island? I was attacked by a golden retriever, for crying out loud. He chased my dog into the house when we were walking on a lead. And he came after my dog. And when my dog ran behind me, it came after me.
So that just offers credence to they need to be on leashes?
Exactly. You need to keep your animal under control. And if you can't keep your animal under control, then you shouldn't have an animal.
And every dog should be spayed and neutered.
Yes, absolutely. Unless it's a pedigree and you're breeding it to keep the line alive, every animal should be spayed and neutered. Right. Okay. It's just for the health of the animal. Cancer is caused by hormones.
Yeah.
So that's just what I had to say. I came all the way down here, saw you guys were on TV, and I came all the way down here, got out of my pajamas, and came out here just to tell you, you can't penalize an entire breed for the actions of a few.
Yeah, it's very insightful.
And it has to be, like you said, the owner has to be responsible because no dog comes out of the womb wanting to kill something. It gets taught to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. Iris?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad that you guys are working on this, and I don't mean to insult you, but what has to be done to have a person ticketed for a violation? Let's say somebody who's got a dog and never put the dog on the leash, period. Doesn't know what a blue bag is for. And we have the problem that if it is off hours, code enforcement are not, they're like 8 to 4, I believe. So what it's necessary for somebody to get actually a ticket. I hear there's codes and this, and the codes are done to protect residents, visitors, and the city. So you guys are not liable. You have regulations to follow. It's very simple. What do we have to do to get somebody ticketed for, let's say, off the leash all the time? Not a visitor. Unfortunately, we see it more on residents.
They have to get caught, I think.
Oh, no. I've been almost for 2 weeks now, tried to get a person who does that because the dog was running in the post office up and down. The dog's pee on the wall is right at the level of a child. I'm not going to go into pit bulls or this or that. It's very, but, and for almost 2 weeks, I've been working, and kudos for the guys. They work very, very hard. I adore them. They have the hardest job in town. So, but not if I take a picture, that's not going to be enough. If I take a video of the person, it's not going to be enough. They have to be caught on the act. Today, I was downtown, and the same person is drinking at one of the bars. Fine, have fun. Don't leave your dog on the car. This person goes to work, and the dog stays on the golf cart, the first thing I feel sorry for. Nothing is stopping that. The guy is not mean, but nothing is stopping that guy from jumping. Other dog does something. A child. I beg you guys. I'm not asking you. I beg you. Reinforce. I like to fix the dogs so we don't have people coming over here. I see it all the time. They come over and with one people, and then they breed them. And I'm not saying people are bad. It's just that they are bigger animals. They lock. They have. I saw that at the pier, and it was horrible. Mm-hmm. A child will never survive that kind of attack. Right. So I really beg you guys to work on this. I know you have your hands full. I need to know sometime because I'm tired to come to the city. You guys are too busy just to get somebody ticketed.
I'm not sure if there's evidence.
How would that work? It's ridiculous.
Well, I'm not sure that if there's evidence.
She said she had a picture or video of it.
Citizen's arrest.
Could we inform code to have that?
I don't know if you were CC'd on the email from Charlene today, but we specifically asked that question just this morning. We had like 4 questions if they had to be a court citation or an administrative citation. And she explained each one, but I haven't been able to speak to you or Mr. Jenkins to see which direction we would like. But it sounds like, yes, Richard, that we can do an administrative citation. Yes. But the court ones, the code would have to actually see it, but we can send a ticket to the dog owner in the mail.
There is one exception in your municipal code for animal waste, and you have a section at 6-1.129. If any citizen observes an animal doing its business that's not on the animal's owner's property, they can file a complaint with code enforcement, and code enforcement can then follow up and issue a ticket for that. So that's the one exception to the rule that you have.
And is there a way for an anonymity? And can it be anonymous? Like if I have it on my phone and I send it so there's no retaliation.
We have people who do that on some very fine people who do that on a number of issues, Mayor, who send pictures or videos of things, of debris, and ask that it be cleaned up. So that's a good way of, if there's a picture, if it, I mean,
I think you're going to see more enforcement.
I done that, and I was told they have to be cut on the act.
Well,
it's only 2 guys. It's impossible for them to cut the person on the act. Today I was talking to Richard, and there it was. And I really appreciate that the new commander, that he wants to work with us with that. It's nice, though. But they have other things to do. The deputies were busy on a call, so they're not going to drop the call and please cite the person. If I call, I'm not afraid to, I don't care if she knows who is doing it or not. I'm tired. You guys have to reinforce it.
So if she takes a picture, administratively, she could send it to us and we could write an administrative citation.
Yes.
Yes.
Of animal waste.
Well, of animal waste.
No.
Not a leash, not running loose.
And for not being on a leash. And Charlene listed several things, which I will.
Good.
Okay. Great.
So
moving
is
forward.
it going to be that? I mean, what do I do from here? I'm tired. I don't want to come to the city.
That's what we're just saying. You can take a picture, send it.
I did. I sent one to Miguel.
Well,
Now I have some on my phone. I'll be more than glad to give me your
he
email.
now knows that there is a protocol that, based on the information that that Ms. Ratty received today, that if a photo is taken of that situation, that now a citation can be issued,
Okay,
and that is new.
Perfect.
So that will be
I
now
love
the
it.
guide, and they are very hardworking people, as you know. They're
they
very
are.
hardworking.
Oh, I hope they're getting paid well because they have the toughest job in town. I mean, we got the sheriffs, but they have a gun. You know, these guys. Nobody loves to get a ticket, but it's just getting out of hands. And for the sake of the children, for visitors and us, I want to bring my grandchildren. But
Yes. Okay. And your husband has something he would like to say. Stand up, Tim.
Thank you, Iris. Well put.
Should go to the city attorney. Is the mechanism that controls a citizen's arrest going to hold up for somebody that sees something going on and says, look, you stay here, I'm calling the cops? And would there be a response?
I don't want people to physically detain people. We don't want. I don't. I mean, you can make it. You'd have to. It depends on how quickly you can get the sheriff's department there or code enforcement there.
Okay.
Please.
You were talking about
To the mic, please.
you were talking about how the city workers can protect themselves from stray dogs or whatnot. I used to be very close friends with a bicycle cop, and nobody loves to chase bicycles better than a dog. And he said his best defense was a squeeze bottle of water. When the dog comes at you, you squeeze the water in his face, and he stops and thinks about what he's doing because he's like feeling like he's drowning.
Right.
So that is a good deterrent. A bottle of water with a squeeze nozzle on it, right in the face, and it works. I used it when I was a vet tech. It works.
Yeah.
So
I see them in those, like at Petco, and all those dogs are playing, and what they'll do that to them too to stop them. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? So moving forward, we're going to include the mole.
Okay, so I have added the word the mole and added a section 5 to the description of properties where dogs aren't allowed.
Okay.
Want a motion?
Okay. No further comments?
Picking up the ante.
Oh, we're going to look at the fees later. Can we
look at the fees
or
later?
do that?
The fees.
Second reading or coming?
No. The fees are that's a whole separate process.
Okay, I got it.
For fees, and fees are adopted by a resolution.
Okay.
And so we will work with your finance department so that when you do the annual fee, if we can get it in time, we'll do that. If not, then we'll have a separate amendment to your fee ordinance, fee resolution for that.
And was there an issue about whether we wanted this to be urgency or not?
So let me just go through the nuts and bolts of the mechanics. So you have 2 ordinances for it before you tonight. If you want this ordinance to be in effect tomorrow, or the second after you pass it, then you adopt an urgency ordinance by 4/5 votes. Okay, so you need 4 votes for that. So you go through that. In addition to that, you have a regular ordinance which requires the 2 readings. And what we've done in the past is we've adopted the urgency ordinance or tried to adopt an urgency ordinance, and then subsequently you also adopt the regular ordinance and have a second reading. And that's just to protect the city if some agency or some person decided to sue and say there wasn't an urgency for this, the regular ordinance is still valid. So,
and
our recommendation is always, if you want it to go into effect right now, adopt both ordinances. Otherwise, it's the first reading today, second reading May 16th, goes into effect June 16th.
So my question would be for the harbor department, because all of a sudden now they're coming off the pier. They're not going to. How long does it take to get the word out to all the boaters, or for us to have a stock of mussels for sale when they get to the top of the pier?
We should have signs right by the dinghy
but
dock.
urgency would be tomorrow. It's in effect.
Correct.
And is that realistic?
Signs by the dinghy dock.
Harbor master.
Claudia.
Well, I mean, we can't communicate to everybody in
Yeah,
a
we're
matter
gonna-
of time.
So then you just, so is it really urgent, I guess? If you, I mean, how do you?
Something happens tomorrow.
Well, I know.
We'll do whatever you like. I mean, we can notify the people there at the entrance when they come through that their dogs have got to be muzzled when they go to the dinghy dock.
Okay, but they're not going to have a muzzle in their possession probably. So how do we accommodate that?
I think the toy store actually sells dog stuff.
But should we have some close and convenient for them at the chamber or something? Where's the chamber? Maybe at the chamber office or something? Grab a few, small, medium, and large?
Does Chet's carry them?
Oh, she can't say anything.
That's why I'm being quiet about it, but yes,
Yeah.
we have historically sold them.
Yeah. So would we want to do that, Chamber of Commerce?
I'm happy to say that we would carry some, but in general, it's our policy to refer to a member that sells a product rather than competing with them to do so in any way. But I'm certainly open to accommodating given our position.
I guess I'm looking for convenience because if you get off the boat with
I
your dog,
understand.
now you got to
Yeah.
go back on a
I
shore
understand.
boat to put your dog back in the thing while
You're
you're
still
going
gonna
to
have to
get
go
it.
back though. Still gonna have to go back if you come up. If you're on your dinghy and you get to the dinghy dock and you don't have a muzzle, you're gonna have to go back to your
We'd
boat.
be happy
either
to
way.
work with our member businesses that sell them to have a stock and as a and sell it.
Okay, because if
at
they're
a
telling
feedback
them
or something like that.
Okay, because when they're giving them the dye tablet as they come into the harbor, they're going to say, "Well, you need to muzzle your dog." So maybe they,
In front of the harbor before they put
yeah. So at the front of the harbor, so then they would know, and then they would get off maybe without the dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So the question is, do we need to make this urgent or? Oh, what? Harbor Minister.
Would that be at like Float 5 also, or like between the clubs, dinghy dock, would they have to be muzzled there, or is it just coming off the pier? Because we can direct them to another dock.
All the floats.
But we don't. But we allow dogs from the Antonio's down. So I could see how that's a great question that I wouldn't think that they would need to be, because then you're getting into the muzzling dogs all the way in town.
Well, also, that's the thing where you don't have the 300 people waiting to get on a boat.
Right.
Or the 300 people on the pier
Right.
at
Good
one time.
point. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
hang on.
So I would
I
say
mean, there's
no.
quite a few people who specifically take their dogs out to like the dive park and run around at night before they retire for the night. So I wouldn't. There's probably 5 people out there at that time.
Do we want to? I'm just looking at how about where you've traditionally required or not allowed dogs, and it says public beaches. I would suggest if you're concerned about the pier, which you've got a narrow area,
Right.
that we put the Mole and the Avalon Pier.
Yeah, that's what we hoped you put in there. Yeah.
Okay.
We seem to have agreement on
Okay,
that.
so dinghy dock out at the showers is cool between the Tuna Club and Yacht Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion. I'd like to move an urgency ordinance of the City of Avalon amending Chapter 1 of Title 6 of the Municipal Code pertaining to fowls, dogs, and other animals, and to add procedures to identify, seize and destroy potentially dangerous and vicious dogs, and create a mandatory spay or neuter program for pit bulls.
Is there anything else?
Right. Okay, you're saying urgency. So that means.
Yeah, that means 4/5 votes.
No, so that means tomorrow we got to get some muzzles out to the.
I don't understand the need for the urgency. I mean, I'm happy to go with urgency, but I really want it to be crystal clear that we need to do an outreach on this to members of the community as well as our boaters.
Or it falls on deaf ears. I see what you mean.
I mean, otherwise we're just doing it. So if we feel the need that we have to do an urgency right now, I will, participate in that. But we have the capability to email almost all of our mooring owners. I think we have, we've got Thursday updates with the chambers. We've got emails on file for the city. I just want to make, we've got 2 papers that we can reach out to, the log, different things.
Signs.
But I
You
just
get Claudia to do the signs for the or
really
whoever.
think this is one that's important because I don't want us to ruin a visitor's experience coming over here because they had no idea. We could also reach out to the Catalina Express and the Newport
They have to.
Flyer and have them maybe make announcements. I don't know. I
Right.
just
Yeah.
don't want to see us
Right.
just
Yeah, they need to
urgently
have-
do something and not have a plan.
Yeah, they need to have something in the terminals that tell them when you get to Catalina and your dog will have to maybe.
They already do that.
Yeah.
You got to be muzzled on the
Well,
boat.
on the boat, but
Yeah,
they
on
but
the
they
boat.
get off right off the boat and they take it off though. Well, and then the
You got to get off the
It
mold.
just kicks back to the old ordinance, though, right? Urgency,
yeah.
right?
Well, okay, and then because now this is out, we might find if we don't do the urgency, but we'll see. We're going to vote on it if it gets a second. The community now is hearing this, so people are going to start talking a little bit more and maybe want to say some more things as well. So, because we don't have as many dog people in the audience as I thought were going to be here today. What's going on up there?
A large moth.
Giant moth.
Mothra.
Looks like a bat.
It's a drone.
I've seen those. They look like a hummingbird. They're so big.
And the only reason I feel it needs to be urgency is otherwise it's 45 days from now.
Yeah,
But we could
Okay.
urgency
Okay.
it. We could urgency it in 2 weeks.
No, that's why I'm just saying I understand that. And then I know we're going to call for the vote, and I'm happy to do that. But I just want to know, Rosie, is I'm sorry to put you on the spot. Is the shaking of the head no regarding just the breed?
Singling out a breed.
We're not
when
doing that.
any breed can be vicious, if the owner allows it. It is not the dog. It is not the breed.
I disagree.
I
So-
could have some. I could disagree with you on somewhat on that with the
Wholeheartedly.
statistics that I have seen, because the way they were bred for fighting bull. They were bred to be in with the bulls. So they just like a sheep, cattle dog herds. And if you have one of those and you have children, they're going to do what they have been bred to do, which is herd. And pits know that the reason they have their jaws and they have what they do is the way they were used. So I think.
You have no idea.
Any breed vicious. It doesn't.
Oh, sure.
Just because they were originally bred for that doesn't mean that that's what they automatically do.
Okay, so this is only with regards to spay and neuter. So do we want to add Dobermans and Rottweilers? And German Shepherds? And Huskies, the top 10 breeds that are responsible for damage?
Well, I'm hoping to wrap up some of this with the fee schedule in that I would like to propose when we get to that point that license fees are $500 a year unless you can show proof of spay and neuter, and at that point you drop down to $28.
Yeah, and then it doesn't matter what you got yet. Because this is just with regard to spay and neuter.
I feel like it's discriminatory just to attach it to one breed. You either have to do it across the border, or you can't discriminate.
So we change it to say all breeds need to be spayed and neutered. And that's it.
And we do that.
No,
through the
unless
fee
you're a
schedule.
breeder.
Through the fee schedule.
I don't.
Nah. I don't want to do that. I like it how it is.
There's probably 50
Well, we have one
cities in
descending,
California.
but I don't know if any other people want to talk on behalf of Pitts.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion out there. I'm happy to hear it. I mean, I would rather, instead of shaking and heckling us, you come and give us your thoughts.
And I just thought I would calm down before I actually opened my mouth, because I'm very upset with Joe right now. Because Joe has decided one breed and one breed only is the vicious breed. And I'm sorry, pit bulls are not a vicious dog. You make a dog vicious the way you treat and train that dog. Pit bulls, I grew up around pit bulls. They are loving, caring dogs.
Which I said.
But any dog could be made a vicious dog. I had an experience with a dog at Mount Ada that mentally, it went a little crazy and it went after me. And it was a dog that I lived with for 6 years, and we ended up having to put it down. So any dog can do that. So to blame one breed as a vicious dog and to focus on that breed is wrong. It's the way the dog is raised.
When it comes to the point to where the next dog, when the Cocker Spaniel or the Beagle or the Chihuahua start attacking people in town and maiming people.
This was a Springer Spaniel that went after me.
Okay,
So
well then
cute dog, Joe.
We'll add them to
Cute
the
dog.
list. We'll add them to the list.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Right now, the problem is pit bulls.
Okay, so now the only talk about pit bulls is with.
I'm sorry. It is not just pit bulls. There are other vicious dogs in this island, not just pit bulls.
Okay, when they start attacking people, we'll put them on the list.
Oh, so it comes to when they attack people that we're going to protect people. So you need to either make it all inclusive or not at all.
Okay, so Springer Spaniel, you want to add those?
Yeah. If you're gonna be doing this to protect the public, then it should be all animals, not just one breed.
Okay.
Springer Spaniel's not going to grab you by the neck or the artery and maim you.
Okay.
Joe, I have scars from other dogs, little dogs that have bitten me.
Did you really? Did you report it or did you bring it forward? I mean,
Put it down.
Chief Krug, did you want to say something?
Not your dogs, too.
I just had a question that has nothing to do with the fire department. Where do service animals figure into this?
Okay.
In fairness to the code enforcement and animal control and harbor patrolmen, I didn't know how that would affect this and how it might affect them doing their job.
Well, they still have to be on a leash. And the regulations for service animals are such that you can ask someone if they have a service animal. And they can say yes or no. And then the only other question you can ask is, has that animal been trained to deal with the condition that you have it for? Yes or no? If they answer yes to both questions, that's end of discussion. You cannot require papers. It's a state law. So that's what the law is.
Sometimes, though, they give them little tags that they put around their neck, and they have the dog identified as certified service animal.
Okay, I know. I'm understanding that all dogs have the potential to bite. I'm identifying pit bulls as the last 5 dog attacks that people almost died on this island. As we go forward, if other people get bit and you come forward and it's this breed of dog and we have a repeated amount of dog attacks from that certain breed of dog, I'd say more than one, let's put them on the list and let's say that particular dog and we'll add them to the list, okay? But right now we're talking about the last 5 incidences that have happened here have been major pit bull attacks, and those dogs have the most potential to kill people. They were bred not just to kill people, but they were bred to latch on until their subject is rendered dead. So I'm going with that right now. That's what my common sense is telling me to do. That's what most people want us to do right now. Obviously not in the audience, but like I said, as going forward, if we need to change it, we will. I like the ordinance how it is.
And the only reference to pit bulls is
spay and neuter.
In regards to the spay and neuter.
So, do we have a second on the motion? We have a council member Olson made a motion. Okay.
Joe second.
Further discussion?
I want to say yes to everything except for the calling out the particular breeds. So I would just say I'd be happy to support this, but maybe taking out the mandatory spay and neuter and picking that up when we do the fees and making that across the board.
There's also the issue of, we have a lot of dogs in town, and we don't really have, it's sad to me that we don't have the place for dogs to roam and run and all of that. But the other thing is, do we want, and I was kind of being facetious, but why would we want, unless you're a breeder of a specific breed, why should anybody want to bring a whole bunch of puppies to town when you got all of those places where you can get dogs on the mainland?
Annie, you're involved with the Humane Society too, aren't you?
No.
I mean, my goodness.
I know.
And constantly asking for support, for money. We don't have enough place to put these puppies. We don't have a place for them to go. I mean, the Humane Society is inundated with puppies and cats and kittens of owners of animals who they're not responsible owners. I mean,
so should they all be spayed and neutered?
That's what I'm saying. Wrap it up in a fee schedule rather than calling out a particular.
Well, so not a fee schedule. All dogs and cats shall be spayed and neutered.
What she's talking about through the fee schedule is you give the owner the option. If you want them not to be spayed, you just pay $500. If you want them to be spayed, you pay $20.
Okay, and my point is they should all be spayed and neutered. There are plenty of unwanted pets out there, and I'm getting some good nods out there for everybody, and that solves the problem. We're not breed specific, we're everybody specific.
So then change it rather than it be specific breeds. Put all breeds.
And do we want to, and my question is though, I mean, there is a motion, but if the motion was just for pits, are you going to amend your motion? All breeds?
No, not all breeds. I believe we can handle all breeds. We can make a financial decision by the dog owner when we do the fee schedule. I think it's shown that pits, when they get spayed and neutered, are not as aggressive.
And again, the way I drafted the ordinance, pursuant to direction, was that we have the pits and similar dogs that the kennel societies find aggressive, and then we reserve it 2 and 3 to add additional dogs. And you can always amend this ordinance later, but right now it's what state law allows, which is you can specify breeds because of their propensity to harm people.
But you can specify a breed on a spayed issue.
Yes, only on the spay, only on spay and neuter.
Okay, well, there's a motion, and I think there's a second.
No, second. Councilmember
And this
Sampson.
is for the urgency. And this, okay. So, okay. Call for the vote.
4 ayes, Sampson, Cassidy, Hernandez, and Olson. 1 no, Marshall.
For the urgency part?
Yeah.
Or is that the whole ordinance?
No, the urgency ordinance.
And it doesn't include all breeds, which is what I would have wanted.
Right. Okay. And then, so then we go to.
But all breeds have to be spayed and neutered. All pets.
All right. Okay, so.
Item number 6.
I don't know. Now we have a regular ordinance.
Regular ordinance. Yep. I'm trying to find it. I want to get it right.
So we separated them.
So we can urgency on the pits and we can non-urgency on the all breeds. Right?
I'm thoroughly confused and frustrated. So I don't want to be frustrated and make decisions in that regard. So I'd like to just take a step back and take a deep breath. I thought that what we were just voting on was whether or not it was going to be an urgency or not.
Yes.
That's it. It's not the particulars of the ordinance. It's just whether or not it's going to be urgent.
It's the urgency ordinance.
It's the urgency ordinance.
Which includes pit bulls.
Correct.
Right.
Now I'd like to move an ordinance of the City of Avalon amending Chapter 1 of Title 6 of the Avalon Municipal Code pertaining to fowls, dogs, and other animals to add procedures to identify, seize, and destroy potentially dangerous, vicious dogs and create a mandatory spay and neuter clinic program for pit bulls. This is the first reading. We'll come back in 2 weeks.
So again.
And the motion would be to waive.
And waive further readings.
Okay, so again, we just put in the urgency to pit bulls, but there could be a vote on this next one to say all breeds. If he doesn't if yours doesn't get a second or pass, then somebody could then adopt an ordinance that also says no breeds.
You would have to rescind the urgency ordinance because it's been adopted.
I just say you do the urgency if you're 2 weeks, and then if the other one goes through, then that one goes away because it supersedes the urgency. That's not how it goes? You can't do that?
No, you can come back and rescind the urgency in 2 weeks.
Yes, you can rescind an urgency ordinance by an urgency ordinance or by a regular ordinance.
Okay, well, he's got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Ready? Call for the vote.
3 ayes, Sampson, Hernandez, Olson. 2 noes, Marshall and Cassidy.
Okay.
Scott, I have a question.
I mean, I know that looks ridiculous. I agree. So, I
believe.
Yeah, yes, Richard, I do think that it does. But I I believe wholeheartedly in every aspect of the urgency ordinance and the regular ordinance except for calling out the particular dogs. So,
Well, you blew that when you voted on the urgency one.
well, I thought we were voting on whether or not it was an urgency, not whether or not it was,
What was
the
in
full
it?
meats and potatoes of it. Because it's 2 ordinances. So I'm just,
Yeah.
like I said before, I'm confused.
Well, you want to call
and
back on that vote?
This is frustrating.
The appropriate thing is if before the meeting ends, we can have a council member, Cassidy, could do a motion to reconsider. And then if there is a vote of 3 people to reconsider, then you can reconsider that ordinance.
It doesn't matter. It's still a 3-2 vote. So, I mean.
Yes.
But on the urgency, doesn't have to be 4/5.
Oh, the urgency has to be 4/5.
That's the one she wants to reconsider.
I have to look at my legal book. I'm not, because it's adopted by 4 votes. So technically, for a motion to,
That's what you
for
said
a
earlier.
motion to reconsider, I think it's 3 votes. To repeal the urgency ordinance, it's 4 votes.
4/5 again.
4/5.
Regardless, it's still
you'd have to have
regardless.
4 votes to repeal it because it's been
Regardless.
adopted.
Let's just save everybody more time and frustration tonight. It's already passed. It's going to be a 3-2 vote no matter what. So whether it's urgent or not. So let's move on.
Item 8.
You seem to be the only one that's got confused about all this. I mean, and I'm sorry to hear that, but if you can reconsider at the end of the meeting, like Scott said, so.
And Scott, was the regular ordinance, also, we were amending and putting the word
Yes, we
pleasure
are.
pier and
Pleasure
mall.
Pier and Mall on section 5.
Okay. Thank you.
Anytime.
Okay, item 8.
No,
Next
6.
item 6.
6.
I'm
See,
sorry.
look at.
Oh, I forgot about 6.
When you're ready, Madam Mayor. Are we ready?
Please,
Thank you.
proceed.
This item is the Fuel Dock Restaurant RFP, results and direction. The City Council had previously authorized and directed an RFP to be solicited for the construction and operation of a restaurant at the soon May 5th, by May 5th, Fuel Dock to be at that facility. The response to the RFP was due on 5 p.m. on April 14th. The RFP was placed in a number of venues for people to respond. The results of the RFP, while we had inquiries from local people, and we thought that there would be interest by multiple parties, we had discussions with them. Some we met internally. We only received one response that was not responsive to the conditions in the RFP. So that was the Armstrong, Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong's reply in the RFP. In that, they replied, they expressed an interest in pursuing construction and operation of a facility, but not on the terms outlined in the RFP. Concerns expressed related to structure, timeline for completing all work, some issues about the electrical panel that you previously discussed and before the meeting items, the rent structure. There were also some concerns by another party that we met with, local, who talked about having a larger facility, having an open dining area on the top of the facility of the new restaurant. But of course, the RFP specifically stated that no roof dining would be allowed. The finance director and I agree that a lack of response indicates that that businesses, at least locally, or those that we've spoken with, and it's been there's about 4, I believe it was 3 or 4, that we're not in a position though to build a facility for $300,000 to $500,000, and so we're bringing this back to you, and we're suggesting that there might be some options you'd want us to pursue. There's the first is option is to determine if a short-term approach of examining installation of a portable facility on an interim basis while we vet other ideas. We could also hold a discussion with potential bidders, the one bidder and the potential bidders, to determine what they would think is needed or happen to make location successful and financially feasible to be a lessee of the city. And then we could report back to the council in that regard. One of the comments by one of the proponents was that the space for what the rent is, that the space available to lease is not large enough to have the kind of revenue to pay the ongoing expenses of a restaurant. We know that there are some opportunity for less expensive portable facilities that could be placed there. We've seen some examples where they can be attractive. That might be a short term. It might or a longer term. What we need from you is some direction on where do you want us to go from here. We made a few suggestions, but of course, in the end, that direction comes from you, not from us.
Comments?
I like 1 and 2. I like both of those. Which is determine if the short term, what the ramifications of the short term facility is, what the health department ramifications are. I don't know if there are any special. And then also meet with the bidder and other potential bidders to find out what makes it work better.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
And report back.
Let's look at time frame here, folks.
We got one RFP.
Yeah.
Why don't we pursue that?
Didn't meet with the requirements.
Didn't
meet with the requirements.
Yeah, well, at least he put it in an RFP. I mean, he's interested enough to put an RFP in, so let's pursue that guy. Let's see who that is, and Russ.
That would be us building the building.
Yeah, well, it's not going to get done unless we build the building, obviously.
Right. So,
yeah. And I don't want to put up I like taco trucks, but I don't think we need one out there. Okay, I think we should build the building, and I know we don't have the money to do it. We have to find it. We have to somehow. We're going to get our money back within 5-6 years, maybe.
I think what we figured the costs were at, if you're looking at a $500,000 over 30 years at a interest rate of 3.5%, maybe the market for a commercial type development. And I think it's approximately $2,600 a month to pay that debt over 30 years. If it's 25 years, it's more, a little more per month. Maybe it's $2,800 or something like that. But I know Mr. Olson's probably calculating it right now. But so that's a 3.5%. And maybe you're saying, are there other financing options that could be used? And we haven't looked at those, but we could.
They pay us rent, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And the rent on the rent. The original RFP that you sent out.
8%.
Yeah, it's 8% currently, or a $4,000. I think was the way the RFP went out. A $4,000 minimum plus a CPI that was annual increase on the base rent, or 8%, whichever is higher.
Why don't we just do 8%, and then the 2 months that they're not open, we charge them $4,000 for rent? It's pretty simple.
Essentially that was I think essentially that was the previous.
So basically this will be like the third year that we haven't had any income out of this place, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the other side of this is that we pay rent, a lease for that some lease space, small marginal lease space, but it's a very high rent, and it'll accelerate in the next 3 years. Right? And I would hope there's maybe some other options that we could look at in conjunction with the company in regard to that small piece of land.
And let me ask another question. If we had gone through with the current person that put in the RFP, when would that construction have started? Did we say not until after summer?
No, I don't think that we had specified a term, but clearly the summer is the busy month. And there's but of course the site itself is isolated. It's not isolated. It's off the road. So construction, as it has been for the pier, it could probably occur with minimum. Is that fair to say,
Would you
Robert?
think that would be a smart, wise decision to build a building right
Yeah, you could, we could put, when we open up the fuel dock, we're going to put a fence up and we're going to have the restrooms open up, and then we'll start selling fuel. But that whole area where the restaurant is, we'd still have it fenced off because it's an area that still would be under construction. We'd anticipate that. Then as the dinghy dock gets put in and then the seasonal fuel dock, all those other facilities can open up too. So it's really just how to handle the dinghy dock in the future while we're under construction with the restaurant, if we go ahead with that. But I think we can do that with fencing.
If I could just say one thing is that the reason that some people did not submit an RFP was because they didn't want to build the building. If the building had been built by the city, based upon what we're told, we would have gotten more responses to the RFP. So one of the items is to...
They knew that though, right? They knew that going ahead. They could have still put their RFP in.
And the RFP that was submitted said, we don't want to build the building. You build the building for us.
But I think there's other outline questions too. One, did the city ever sort out the lot line?
We have a footprint of what the lease space is that we've had over time of what of not the lease space, but I mean we know what our property line is, and as a condition of the lease, it could be no more than 2,000 square feet, I believe, unless the price goes up. So that had to be an attachment to whatever lease agreement was agreed to. So there would have to be a footprint defined. You define the parameter of that, and that would have to be attached of any lease.
Contrary to Joe's comment, a little disagreement. I do believe that there are mobile catering units that can look very permanent, that could come on pretty quick. And I was talking about Greenlaw today, like one here, they're 8 by 24. You could put 2 there. So you could not only have tacos, you could have whatever. But
you couldn't build a building while you got taco trucks there.
No, but if they could, I mean, even
to get through the summer,
through the summer and
short
beyond.
term.
Well, something is designed, even if it went for a year, you could still build the bar because there's a place for the bar on the plans, and that wouldn't be that expensive to build the bar. Then you set these 2 things down there, and I don't know, people more creative than I could make it look cool. I think and they go anywhere from $52,000 to $250,000. So I mean, you could bring in a couple of those for $150,000.
In the spirit of an open-mindedness, who would do this? Would we do it?
Well, you might want to.
We go back and ask. We go back and ask.
Yeah, we ask people if they want to provide the service.
Would you be interested to do the short term?
There would be
the short term. I don't know.
There are people that have them on the mainland too.
Oh, I see. We could start making money off the.
Yes. We can start making money.
Yes.
Getting income.
I mean, it still wouldn't happen overnight, but it would be quicker than a building that probably wouldn't be built till after summer.
You would not only make money, but you would provide a service to the people who are out in Dive Park and elsewhere who might frequent that area. So it's kind of a two. And again, of course, you know this, that the current design of the building, the footprint, and is already approved by the Planning Commission and by the Coastal Commission. If there's modifications to that, it is likely that, Mana's not here, but we've talked about this, it's likely that it could take Coastal Commission approval for any structure that's different than the one that's been already approved.
So we had a revised plan.
If there was a revised plan, it would probably
likely be without going back to the plan.
Right, and that would be a discussion we could have with Mr. Posner when we have our meeting with the Coastal Commission.
That's going to take at least a year.
It takes time. So the point of this, I thought we're working towards a permanent facility.
Get a second story.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so why would we put all this effort into putting a temporary facility out there?
Because it generate revenue and meet the needs of our
Yeah, but
public.
they could be building the new facility while.
Yeah, the whole design of the facility, your point, I mean, I understand it's reasonable. I mean, the thing is to do a redesign. People are saying that the footprint itself, but the 3 people that we met with is actually too small to generate the kind of revenue to pay the type of rent that we would want, and that they would want a larger footprint, not for maybe a permanent facility, but for an overhang so people in the deck area could have some shade. And then on top of the buildings, there was one of the suggestions was that there be an open venue so that people could, not with a roof, a second story per se, but an open venue where people could dine upstairs. And I recall in the conversation.
I've mentioned that 5 times, and it was shot down every time. Oh, no, we can't do that.
Well, no, but that's what the feedback that we had coming back. That's what they said to us.
Oh, sure, everybody's going to want that rooftop veranda up there. Why wouldn't you want that? So now you're reconsidering it now?
I'm not. You would need to. I think it's a pretty cool idea.
I've mentioned it multiple times. I mean, that's what's going to sell this place is more seating.
Yeah, I'm not
more
opposed.
premier seating like that. I mean, that would keep it open throughout the evening, instead of just like for breakfast and lunch.
I think
that would be a selling point for the whole facility. Yeah. There's very little space on the inside of the way it's designed right now. You need as much space as you can get. Of course, everybody's going to want it if we build it like that. Russ is the guy who's coming in, and he's wanted it the whole time, and he's put out this RFP, and he said, he said from the get-go, I can't accommodate your conditions, but I can accommodate this. He put out the RFP. Nobody else did.
Yeah, he was the only respondent, even though it was non-responsive.
But again, back to that, with redesigning it, you'd have to go back to the Coastal Commission, which takes time.
Which will take long.
That's the problem with that. You're right. And I think that's a good idea, too. I like that. But we'd have to go back to the Coastal Commission, which would be another year. Right. So we want maybe a short-term thing, and maybe if they wanted to do that, long term if they decided to do it.
So let me just the reason that we are suggesting the option of a temporary structure there is if we have to redesign it, we're going to have to go through Coastal Commission. If the council wants to work with or directs us to work with the people that are interested, and that's going to take some time to find out what they want. If the council's direction is just build it, city, build it, and then we'll have someone to take it in, and we'll talk with the people that didn't submit bids or that did, and come to a deal. If we have to build it, we have to go through the public bidding process. We have to get plans and specs and do all that kind of stuff and go out to bid, and that'll take time anyway. So the option of having something temporarily there, regardless of, because we don't have someone today willing to build it, while we decide what to do, you could have something temporary there to get some revenue out there and serve the divers.
Well, and maybe the first thing we do is offer that to the applicant. Mm-hmm. Say, this is what we're considering. It's got space for 2, whatever. See if this is something they would want to do.
Offer to who?
To the applicant that was there before that we've been negotiating with for 2 years.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear what you said. You said applicant, and I thought you said Apple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that might be the thing to do, but give a short window, short time, because you can lease these things as well as purchase them.
It might be worthwhile for him. Go ahead and take it if it works for him,
and you see how the new space works.
Reapply for redesigning of the place.
Just a thought.
Later down the line,
and then that might make it more appealing
second story,
to others.
Go to the planning commission for another year.
And if they come back and say they're not interested at all, then we go.
Then we'll know, and we, as you say, whatever it is, a short window to get a response, a reasonable time frame, but not an excessive time frame to get.
People are interested. I know people are interested in this. This is a huge thing.
They're missing it.
So anyway,
the direction is to do both.
To do both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you direct or did you vote?
Yes, but are we directing to talk to that applicant first to see if this is something they would want to do?
I need to know from.
Are we agreeing with that?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we take that, Madam Mayor? It's just for the purpose of the minutes, though, it's a reflection of the total council that we're in effect. You voted to direct us to do that, and that's what.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Item number 8.
Item number 8 is a suggested revision to your ordinance regarding the manner in which you set your saltwater, sewer, and solid waste fees. Currently, right now, state law is required that you do it via an ordinance, and they just changed state law to say that gives you the option of doing it via resolution. The advantage is doing a resolution is easier on staff. You have one reading. You're still going to have your public hearing, Doing it by ordinance, you need 2 readings. So the purpose of this ordinance is to give the city the option of doing these fees via resolution rather than just an ordinance.
Because my understanding is, Mr. Messer's not here, but there he is. My understanding is because the city currently places it on the tax rolls, that state law requires that, but as the city attorney said, that rule has changed now, and certainly it's the approach that most cities would use in terms of setting rates by resolution.
Okay. Go ahead, Ollie.
Move to introduce and pass the first reading of an ordinance that's authorizing the city of Avalon to adopt future, new, or increased saltwater, sewer, and solid waste fees, and changes to by resolution. And I can't read anymore. My eyes are going. I must be late. In addition to ordinance, amending section 6-7.252 parentheses B of the Avalon Municipal Code to allow adoption of new and increased fees, sewer, salt, and solid waste by resolution, as well as ordinance.
And waive further readings.
Didn't I say at the top? Oh, no, I didn't.
No, you said waive first reading.
I'm going to put it in here so I can read it.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moving a second. Call for the vote.
Oh, hang on.
What?
Public.
Public, what would you like to say about this?
Nothing.
Okay. Call for the vote.
All ayes.
We didn't ask him about anything else, and then you get to this, the most mundane thing, and
I know.
Thank you for keeping me on track.
That's because they were all anxious to speak on everything else.
I know. Anyway, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we have
Hospital.
We have a hospital.
Oh, and we do.
And we have a hospital tomorrow morning, too.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So,
And tomorrow.
Okay, I gotta leave that here.
I would like to call to order the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees of Tuesday, May 2nd. Call the roll, man, please.
Trustee Cassidy?
Here.
Trustee Hernandez?
Here.
Trustee Marshall?
Here.
Trustee Sampson?
Here.
Chairman Olson?
Here. Are there any announcements? Seeing none. Written communication?
I have none.
None. Presentations? None. Oral communications. The Board of Trustees will accept comments from the public at this time. No action will be taken on non-agenda items at this meeting, and please limit your speaking to 3 minutes. Flocking to the podium. Just flocking. Okay, we're done there. Consent calendar. First consent calendar is the Board of Trustees actions of April 4th. Motion to adopt?
Can we do them both?
Are we doing them both?
Oh, there are 2. That's right. I'm sorry. And the other one is the Chief Executive Officer's report and Chief Financial Officer's report. And the recommendation is to receive and file.
So moved.
I will
Any
second.
move? You have a second? Any discussion? Public? Call for vote. General business being none. Wait.
All ayes.
Oh, I'm sorry. General business being none. I have no report. Members report?
I have a question. Did the
Okay.
hospital ever sort out their generator?
They did. They chose not to take the city financing on the generator.
Right.
And I understand that there is a generator. They have one. They have not yet installed it. Is that correct? Mr. Messer, do you? I think you and I talked about that today.
I just want to know if it ever got resolved, if they actually got the generator
I
and did what
understand
they
they
needed
did.
to do.
Yes.
I believe they have the generator. It has not been installed yet.
Cool. Great.
It costs us nothing.
Okay. Members report, no reports. We would like to adjourn.
Okay. And on the other issue, I'd like to say good night, Tony.
And
Good night, Tony.
Adjourned.
see you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock.
See ya.